No, that's fine. Well, it is 8 o'clock, so we're gonna call the meeting to order, and please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, anyone for public discussion? Yes, Derek.
So last Friday, the Madison County Treasurer was arrested. Felonious misconduct in office, tampering with records, fraudulent practice, third-degree theft. The state auditor was involved, and I'm going to just read off the article, and then we'll talk a little bit more.
Doesn't sound good.
No. So the first error was reportedly noticed within a week with the city finance auditor notifying the Madison County Treasurer in writing to request the removal of the funds. So October, let me go back a notch. Between the dates of October 16th, 2024 and January 15th, 2025, the Madison County Treasurer made monthly erroneous deposits of TIP funds to the city of Winterset's account totaling $258,000. So multiple months TIP funds were sent to the city of Winterset. The first error was reported within a week from the city finance officer notifying the Madison County Treasurer in writing to request the removal of the funds. This measure was taken every month thereafter according to the release. However, no action was taken and the issues were not corrected. As the end of year deadline approached to disperse the TIP funds, the city reportedly brought the issue to the direct attention of Madison County Board of Supervisors, Dan Fitch, Bill Clifton, and Heather Stansel. During the third week of December, the city also provided documents that detailed the erroneous deposits to the treasurer, the county auditors, and the complete Board of Supervisors. When no action had been taken by January 6th, the Winterset City Council voted unanimously to rectify the situation on its own and directed the city administrator to notify the city of Patterson, city of West Des Moines about the situation surrounding TIP funds owed to them. The funds had still not been removed by January 21st, which prompted the city administrator to bring a cashier's check from the city of Winterset to the Madison County Treasurer in full amount. The cashier's check had not been deposited when she was arrested last Friday. So coming out of that arrest, we received an email from Solutions yesterday, and I'm going to read it in full. We are reaching out to inform you of an important procedural change regarding the management of support tickets. Effective immediately, any changes requiring back-end data augmentation will require written approval and sign-off from the requesting county's Board of Supervisors. Please note that this new procedure does not apply to updates made by the user through our application support team or the customer-facing end of the system. It is only required when our team directly modifies the data on your behalf. This update is being implemented to ensure proper auditing and approval trail for all modifications. That treasurer that was arrested sounds like she is blaming Solutions for the problem with the transfers and the TIP account. We don't know if that is the case or not, but it certainly is concerning that Solutions is sending out an email saying that there was data changed on the bank. So I just wanted to let you guys know we're still working with ISAC on a possible alternate vendor to replace Solutions, but you guys need to be aware of what's going on with that. So that's all I have. I can't make any decisions, but I want to be informed.
Thanks, Derek. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else for public discussion? Yes, Mr. Hoffbauer.
But
I said yes. Do you have something?
I just would like to know for sure who's doing it or whatever, so it gets done.
Who's doing what?
That repair request?
Repair with
Repair request 115, I've been in contact with Reitzels, they will be doing it first thing in the spring, so.
Okay.
That is on the list.
Okay, because it's been drug out, I mean, from, it was the first half of October when I turned it in. And it's still not done, I mean, and we lost over 8 acres. It's not because of you guys, I know that, but we have an over 8 acres of ground out on that farm. And there's over $100,000 of tile in there on that farm. And it was because that dirt slid down there, and it's gotta be removed. And if it don't get done in the early spring, I could end up not being able to plant corn till late. Then there'd be another loss. That's why I'm concerned about it.
Yep, understandably so.
It's hard enough to make ends meet this day and age, so. But if it's took care of now, okay. But if I call you, I want you to answer my phone then too.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks, Jim. Alright, any other public discussion?
I'll just introduce myself
Yeah.
real quick since I don't think all the supervisors are in the room or people. I'm Jake Joliet with Mid-American Energy. I'm out of the Urbandale office. I'm from Adair, Iowa, so southwest Iowa, but basically we currently don't have any proposed projects in Kossuth County, but we track all the counties, all the agendas, just to, when counties are discussing wind, solar, battery storage, whatever it might be, and then tend to reach out when counties may need some assistance or seem like they have questions or whatever it might be, to help with the ordinance process, so that is why I'm here today. So, when you get to that portion of your meeting, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'll answer to the best of my knowledge. If I don't know the answer, I'll jot it down and follow up with an email with the answer from someone that knows, so,
Sounds good.
thank you guys.
Thanks for being with us, yep. Any other public comment?
Yes,
Good morning, Rod.
morning. Howard, you touched on this here a couple of weeks ago. I was on the compensation board. And I did some research afterwards of the counties that they compared to. And the counties around us. Of all those counties, they all get paid by the hours that they actually work. Kossuth, what I take, gets paid 40-hour week for a 35-week work. That's 87.5% of it. If you're in a budget crisis like last year, you gotta use that in consideration. If you got a business on Main Street or anywhere, are you willing to pay 87.5% less or more to that employee? Or would you rather go to the grocery store and buy 11 eggs for a price of 12? Or in reality, if you look at 87.5% of 52 weeks is 45 weeks that the employee actually working. You're just giving them 7 weeks of vacation over those weeks. It's a big budget crisis right there. Especially when all the people we compensated through the board, or what the compensation board looked at the other counties, they ain't like ours.
Thank you. Anyone else for public discussion?
Is this when you wanna talk about those parcels, or?
No.
Are you gonna wait?
Nope, you're on
Okay.
the agenda.
Yep, alright. Very good, well, seeing no further discussion, I'll take a motion to approve the agenda and minutes dated January 28th, 2025.
So moved.
Motion by Garmin, second by Stecker. Any discussion on the agenda and the minutes? And if not, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimous. And then we have the claims. Everyone have a chance to look at the claims? Need a minute to look at anything? What's that? Both the drainage claims and the regular claims. And whenever someone's ready, we'll entertain a motion. We have a motion by Garmin. Is there a second?
Sure.
Alright, second by Haas. Any questions, discussion on the claims? If not, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Motion is unanimous. Okay, then we have the budget status report. It's in your board packet. Everyone had a chance to look at that. Good?
Yeah.
Good. Thank you, Tammy. We'll acknowledge that in the minutes. And then we have discussion decision to approve and appoint township trustee for Prairie Township. And I was having trouble getting my packet open here. Is there a specific individual here? Oh, Paul Grind, okay. Oh, okay. Very good. I'll make a motion to approve the township trustee for Prairie Township. Is there a second to that?
No second.
Second to appointing Paul Grind as the Prairie Township trustee. Any discussion on that?
Who's he replacing? What's the occasion?
I don't know.
It was vacant.
Vacancy,
It was
if I
vacant
remember
before.
correctly.
Yep.
He already was one, wasn't he?
Nope. Nope. Prairie was vacant. I think it was 2 or 3 townships that were vacant. Okay. Anything else? Otherwise, all in favor of appointing Paul Grind as the township trustee for Prairie Township, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Motion is unanimous. Okay. You need to sign here then? Okay, discussion decision, assign tax certificates for parcels 0619229004 and 0619229005. I assume this is your time to,
You wanna call Nick?
Yeah.
Probably should call Nick.
I'll go ahead and call Nick, Josh, please.
You know his number is 2.
No, I'm drawing up like,
Oh, you got it.
that's what happens when you're gone a week.
Hey Nick, it's Josh over here in the boardroom. We're up to those tax certificates. Oh, okay. Alright, thanks.
Wrong Nick.
I was looking at Nick and I was like, hey Nick, we're up to the tax certificates. Alright, thanks.
He
got
didn't
the
seem
right
quite
one.
as surprised.
Yeah, I got the right one. I didn't even look at last night, I just saw Nick.
Well, and you even had the right, well, last initial, cause I saw it said Nick R.
Oh.
I wouldn't have thought he would have been a 1, but. Rother and Graham.
That's what I get for trying to be quick. I haven't had all my coffee yet either, so thanks.
Sure. Yep. I'll sign the claims.
Claims and stuff too.
Work in progress.
No, that's
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I need to get the.
We have changed months, don't you?
What is the?
Good morning.
This one's for? Oh, yeah, 0.
Okay, ready? The city of Sway City is interested in taking assignment to a couple of county health tax sale certificates. And I'm just gonna kinda let Alicia explain a little bit about what's going on there.
Sure. Yeah, so there's two, it's actually one building, but ironically enough, it's two parcels, so there's two separate owners. It has started deteriorating significantly, and it'll be a really big undertaking for the city, but we'd like to try. One of the first steps is obviously to get the tax certificates from the county. We have contacted an asbestos inspector, he'll need to be involved, the DNR, we've been in touch with them as well. So we would like to move forward with getting that taken down. Of course, a couple of factors in that process are acquiring the tax certificates, and then if we get to the point of acquiring the deed, which is our intent, then would be to come back to the county and request that they abate the back taxes. I know it's a loss of funds, it is for us too. It's gonna be one that most likely, we're just gonna eat it. But it's one of the things that you do to clean things up, I guess, when you add a roadblock.
And I think
Work
that,
around it.
I'm sorry, excuse me,
No,
and I
you're
think
fine.
part of that, if the board decides to assign the tax sale certificates, the motion should be, I think at the time the motion should be, if tax deed is taken, that all taxes will be abated at the time of the deed acquisition. Make that part of the motion, so you know where you're
Like
at.
that. Yeah,
Before you take deed and then find out
right,
something different.
yeah. And it'll be, I mean, obviously, it's not gonna be an overnight process, we'll have to go through, do the lien searches, things like that. Obviously, that asbestos inspector, once he's able to come up and, ideally, he'll be able to get in enough where he'll be able to get samples, and test what he needs to test, so we don't have to treat it all as asbestos material. Otherwise, if he's not able to, he'll need to be on site, and it'll all need to be treated as such.
Been through all that, it's not a short process,
No, it's not.
Yeah,
years,
Yes,
yeah.
but if
yeah,
the assignment can take place, they can start the process immediately, because the certificates are old enough.
Yep.
How
The
far,
city,
how far out are
well, one of them is in 11, and the other one's in 17.
yeah, I was gonna say. I found 10 to 15 online, but that was as far as I could.
Yeah, but, yeah, so, if assignment is done, then they can start the process immediately, and it should shorten it up for the city.
That makes sense to everyone?
What kind of money is it?
It looks like, the tax amount on those two parcels, the total tax is, $6,930. And the penalty on all of it it's much higher than that, it's $13,247, so, but, I mean, that would be something that we're not getting collected anyway, so.
So did you say that there was just 2 periods missed, or?
No, there's many years on this.
Okay.
This
What
one,
was the significance of the dates you mentioned?
the 2011, those taxes are from probably, 2009, no, 2010, 2011, went on tax sale in 11, and then the 17 would be the 16, 17 year, and then they went on tax sale. If from them to current are not paid.
What was the penalty again?
Well, I'm showing 13,247.
We've done this in the past.
Yeah.
Forgive me for holding you up, but what's the, I mean, if, yeah, I mean, you gotta do, I guess you gotta do it, I can hit them all I want, but what's the, I'm sure it's gonna take you years and everything, it's gonna be hard on your budget and all this and that, but you haven't, nobody has a plan for it at this point.
As far as what we'll do with it in the future,
Yeah,
well, it's right on our main street.
Yeah,
So
I saw
some
that.
type of community beautification, obviously, we're a small rural town, but if
Yeah.
somebody would come in and would rebuild there at some point, that would be great. A lot of, and it is, Howard, these are hard, I struggle with them myself, just in the city, because we have properties, we just did one, less than a year ago, I believe it was, about a year ago. You go in, you take it down, and we assess that one to the taxes. Are we ever gonna see it? Probably not. But, so it is hard, and when you look, when you look at the money, it's hard because you're eating that cost. And for the city, no different than this building, the county as well as the city is gonna be eating that cost. I mean, I would assume it's gonna be exponential by the time we're done. And we have no hope of, we're never gonna recover that, no matter, even if we were to sell that lot. Most likely, if it's community beautification, we will either hold on to it and put something in that area. If we did have a buyer, it's most likely not gonna be significant. That would be our way of helping somebody out and bringing them in. But it is frustrating, I completely understand.
Your potential gain is hoping for more economic development there, or some sort of a community
best.
improvement, yeah.
Community improvement.
Which, a lot of times getting rid of those buildings is community improvement,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, very much so.
And I would, because being the city and things like that, I would recommend assigning the certificates to the city for the assignment fee.
Yeah,
There's no drainage or anything on it, so $10 assignment fee per certificate.
yeah.
Okay. No, everyone,
All in all, it's your recommendation to do this,
Okay.
okay?
Pardon?
All in all, it's your recommendation.
Yeah, it is. I'm sorry, I've got a cold and I can't hear.
Any
Yep.
other questions?
any further questions on that?
Otherwise, I'd make the motion to assign the tax certificates for the cost of, assigning the
$10
$10
per assignment.
assignment fee. And, if the city acquires the deed, to remove the back taxes or abate the back taxes.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Stecker and a second by Garmin. Any further questions on this motion? If not, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.
Have a good day.
You too.
Okay, we're up to discussion decision animal ordinance. Is Roger coming this morning?
Have we got anything back?
I haven't received anything.
I haven't
I
either.
can
I
check
haven't seen anything.
my email and see if I get anything, but I don't think so.
I've had several people talk to me about it, and they have concerns, but this may not be the time for that out here.
Yeah. Well, in the drafting of the ordinance, this would be the time to discuss that for sure. But whether Roger was planning to come over, or
Yeah, I haven't seen anything from Todd, so.
I haven't
think
either.
That's what we talked about last time, was making sure that we had something before it was.
he was gonna go and those two were gonna talk right after the
Yeah, I don't have any.
meeting.
Well, people that talk to me, one of the themes is they don't want the list to be public. If such and such a list is made, a registered list to
Yeah.
people to call, they don't want it to be made public or available to the public.
Mm-hmm.
What was the other concern?
Well, and I think along that lines, maybe even enforcement of, or penalties associated with that list, I don't know if we should have any,
Yeah, you talked about not having it as a voluntary thing.
yeah.
Your initial reaction is you can't see what the downside to it, but these people have concerns about, they know if they have somebody that's not happy with them, they're concerned that maybe there'll be retribution if they know whose animals they are or whatever. Something I hadn't thought of myself.
No.
Okay. Well, do we wanna give Roger a call quick and just ask if him and Todd have had a chance to talk about anything, or if he has anything today before we move on. Put him on speaker. That's
Just
fine.
either way.
If he wants to talk, we can, but.
Hey, Roger, this is Josh over here in the boardroom. We are discussing the, animal ordinance right now. Did you have anything that you, we did not receive anything. Okay. Okay, sounds good. Alright, thanks. He had spoke to Todd and said, Todd said he was gonna try to get it ready for us for this morning, if not, then I guess, he didn't have time, so. We might need to just put it on for next week, give another week to.
I'd check with Todd
I'll
and see.
go talk to Todd
Yeah,
after the
I'd
meeting
check with
here.
Todd and see where
Yeah.
he's at.
Yeah, cause
See
why
what
don't
his
we
timeline is
not
like.
put it on until
Yeah.
we actually have
Right.
something.
Yeah,
Alright, well, we will postpone that for now. I'll go talk to Todd after the meeting and see what his timeline is. Okay, moving on to discussion decision solar ordinance. Alright, where we left it off last time was the board needed to decide just a general direction of where we wanted to go, have time to do some research, get some information, some things you might like included in an ordinance prior to us reaching out to an attorney, which would be the next step to drafting that. I guess open to entertaining any thoughts, desires, concerns, etc.
Again, I had, we talked about tile, and we talked about, drainage district tile. And someone contact me and say, you know, it's more than drainage district tile, it's private tile too. If I'm on a private tile and it goes through this property, it could become a solar field, I don't know if that's the proper terminology. He could have a problem there too, and I don't know how, if we can regulate private tile or what we can and can't do. I don't know. I understand his
Right.
concern, if nobody wants, if something gets damaged and nobody will touch it, no contractor will touch it because of everything that's possibly in the way. You have any experience with that?
Yeah, so if you want me on the
Sure,
stand,
go
or I
ahead,
guess I
yeah,
don't know what's
yeah.
best for
Yep.
county procedure or whatever.
That's okay, yeah, you can come up to the podium here.
So yeah, for wind and solar wise, like we replace all tile and have, obviously, you know, sometimes it's hard to know exactly when things got damaged, so it might take a little bit of time on the back end, you know, if it's dry and they put it in and then it doesn't rain for 3 months, might not know something's damaged, but go back and replace that all. Any trenching we're done is done, you know, it's tracked with GPS, so we know exactly where we are, so, someone can't come along and say, oh, you know, you broke this tile, well, we were never within 1,000 yards of it, or whatever it might be. The second part of that, I guess more in regards to solar, not solar and wind, is, at least from Mid-America's perspective, we own the land that our solar projects are on. We typically enter an option with the landowners, and then once the project everything lines up economically, county-wise, we go ahead and purchase the land, and then, so it's our land then, but,
Okay.
so.
Is that always the case?
For our standard, yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
Not every company would be that way.
I don't know, that, I guess, yeah,
Okay.
other companies, what they're doing, exactly. But yeah, Mid-American, we typically purchase the land, so it's our land.
Interesting. So like at Honey Creek there, you would own all the land?
Yes, I believe for that
Okay,
one.
okay.
Yes, we own all the land, so.
How do you interact with neighbors that in that case would have potentially private tile where the water is either leaving your property and going to theirs or
Yeah.
vice versa?
So I mean, obviously, all that comes back to, you know, your setbacks, and obviously, you can put in, how radius of notifying the, neighboring landowners that, yes, we have a project coming. Like, once again, I mean, for at least our standard, and I assume industry standard is, you know, we're not here to make enemies, right? We're trying to find a well balance that protects the people in the county as well as, you know, we can further progress and build projects. So, I mean, if anything's damaged, we'll replace it more or less, or damaged by us, I should say.
So is there much underground work beyond the electrical lines, or? As
No,
far as
not,
supporting the panels and everything?
no, not as much as, I mean, most, everybody, their wind is a different beast, right? I know you guys went through that, but yeah, not nearly as much. It's, more or less the electrical, and then it's kind of like a glorified fencing is almost what I could compare it to, driving the post in and then the panels resting on the post essentially.
Drive your post right through a tile.
Yeah, that will, obviously have to do one call and,
You won't find tile
On one call.
yeah, I mean,
How deep do your posts typically go for support?
I don't know off the top of my head, honestly, but,
If,
yeah.
if you could let us know that.
Yeah,
might
for
be
sure.
helpful.
Yep. Our goal is not to, you know, just stake through all the tile in the
Well, no,
county,
no,
so, obviously,
Obviously
but-
not, but.
You won't know if you're driving a post or a
Yep.
stake or anything down, you won't know, most likely.
Well, and, yeah, thanks for that, but, I don't know if any of you seen, was his name Dean Gunderson over in Palo Alto County, he's the chairman of the zoning board in Palo Alto County, he had written an article for the Des Moines Register in regards to tile and mostly, in concern over solar and tile and mostly in regards to drainage improvement projects, because it's one thing to have the panel sitting there, but then whether you're doing it privately or through with a county main, I mean, it's, that would significantly affect that, if you've got 40 acres, 80 acres, 100 acres, whatever of solar in the way, so it's just something to consider too, and how we move forward with that, yeah. I guess, yeah, any other questions that we wanna look into? Desires?
Doug Miller, do you have any thoughts on it?
Well, Kossuth County does have a procedure for drainage district easements
Sure.
for utilities. And any solar would have to get easements in order to do that. The board acting as trustees, or if there's private trustee drainage districts, they would have to be giving easements, and the solar, they would have to abide by those easements. Part of that, our easements have always been that there's offsets from the main. We locate those structures, that infrastructure, and then they have to abide by that.
I'm under the impression that there's a certain easement for all drainage district tile. That's a state law or something, is that correct?
For
anything.
installing tile?
You have to fix it, no, you can't, you're not gonna have an easement to install
Well,
tile,
that's what I
but
mean,
to take care of tile that's there.
There is,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the code of Iowa 460 outlines the right of way,
But it doesn't apply to private tile at all?
no.
I guess that's just a whole new can of worms. I don't understand what the protection is for the guy upstream. I don't see the problem for the guy downstream, but I can sure see a problem for somebody upstream. And again, I don't know if it's our business to regulate that or not. I don't know.
Well, it isn't a problem if those neighbors get along, and it is a problem if they don't.
Well, they get along just fine.
Yeah.
I mean, you're upstream from me, and I have opportunity to profit from a solar field or farm or whatever the proper technology is. We get along fine today, but if I sell and there's a problem with your tile, we're not gonna get along so well after that, and.
Correct.
And I don't, and again, I don't know if it's our job to worry about that, I don't know. I've had people talk to me about it.
I question whether the board, whether Kossuth County has any right to even regulate it, or
So when they put that tile in, they should have had an agreement.
absolutely.
And
If you're dependent on another landowner, you better, and it's all, I know there's handshake agreements out there,
Sure,
but
sure.
handshake agreements are
You should have had an agreement, you should have had it recorded.
in the,
Okay.
and they would, even if you're talking today and, you had a private tile system, there is a procedure to make it drainage district facilities and go through the process to kind of put that into a district, so if they, to some degree, if they wanted or needed the legal protections that the code offers, they would need to go through the proper steps to have that. And there's pros and cons to being part of a drainage district. There's requirements for public hearings, there's requirements for engineers, there's requirements for all sorts of things, and sometimes those cost money. So there are advantages to doing it privately as well, but if it's a situation like this, I mean, I would agree with what Doug said, I don't know that we have any authority to do anything for private tile. I mean, we talked about that a lot with the wind ordinance and all that, I mean, we just don't have the authority even if we wanted to, so.
well, there's certainly, I mean, the code does address individual drainage rights as well. It would be a civil matter between people and not necessarily any kind of
Right.
government issue.
Basically, what we're hearing here without any technical opinion, or is that if you've got a private tile that you're worried about, you better take steps now to get an agreement with because we're not gonna regulate that.
If I had a private tile that went through your farm and I was concerned about solar being put on it, and you were downstream of me where my water went through your farm, if I was concerned about it, I would probably either get a written agreement prior to that project happening and or go through the process to put it into a drainage district and have the code, have the authority to help govern that. That's my knowledge and opinion of it, but.
Are there other counties that have solar ordinances?
I was just gonna ask that.
That's,
That list.
that was the
we
list
talked
sent,
about.
sent to your, showed you in the packet there a couple weeks ago. Did you guys happen to review any of them?
They're in our packet.
They showed you where to find them,
We talked about that folder.
that folder of zoning, solar.
Oh, yeah, I know we talked about that, and we looked at it at that time, but I might need a refresher as to where that's at.
I just go to
It's
your,
right under board meetings and a certain
you
year.
can sit down if you want, it's okay.
Board meetings and a certain year,
I wanna
that's
say
it.
that was in 2024.
That was
2023.
November of 2023, I think it was November 28, 2023, or you can just search in your folder, zoning, solar, or whatever.
Yeah, and if you want,
It'll
either
come
an
up.
hour after the meeting, I can show you how to I copied all that to my
But-
OneDrive, so I have that on my OneDrive now.
Yeah.
But we've got Franklin County, Greene County, Lynn, Monona, Johnson, Carroll, Clayton, Sac, and Webster for examples here.
You said November of 23.
It'd be November, I think it was the 28th or something of 23, my memory serves me right.
Zoning, solar.
Yep,
Yep.
yep. So,
Are there any of these that you guys have looked at that, you liked some of the things that are in it? Or
We-
pieces?
Like with Lynn and Green were the two that we liked the best out of them. And that had, we'd reviewed in brief detail, and like we've discussed before, I think the primary point of discussion is gonna be decommissioning plan and, setbacks. And especially the setbacks, cause that's gonna be probably the largest public interest too.
Setbacks from what?
From neighboring property, residents, hog building, I mean, et cetera. Just all of those parks and recreation, that's all listed in the ordinance, very similar to,
Why are people concerned about setbacks?
so they don't have a solar farm 50 feet from their house. That, I mean, that's really,
Is there dangers associated with solar?
I'm not aware of dangers. That's quality of life, kinda like, is it dangerous to have a wind turbine a quarter mile from your house? I don't know that it's dangerous,
So do we have
but
a,
it's,
do we have a
weight
church
falls
or,
up.
do we have a church ordinance, so you can't build a church within a certain amount of footage from somebody's house?
What,
For our,
Same thing, I don't understand the specialty of why solar is different from 100 other things. We
well,
talked about,
a church would be like
I'm not trying to be smart,
just a building,
just an example, why is, I'm not saying it's not, I'm just, what's the opinion that solar is so much different than a grain bin or anything else? You have a grain bin ordinance, do you have I understand you have a wind ordinance, but before I jump on a giving approval to a solar ordinance, it can't be just because somebody doesn't like the aspect of having something next to it, it has to be a good reason.
well, no, but I guess would,
so, to your point there, what we have, and this is, I believe this is the last version, well, it's from, the date on here is July 31st, 2018, but this would be our wind ordinance. So like adjacent property lines, setback requirement is 600 feet or 110% of total height, which would be the tip height, whichever is greater. 1,600 feet from an occupied residence. Occupied non-residential buildings, setback of 1,600 feet. Confinement feeding operation buildings, 600 feet or 110%. Public right-of-way, 600 feet or 110%. Drainage district right-of-way is listed as blank, cause that's covered, well, it's got an open ditch 300 feet and 100 feet from the center line of a tile, which that would also be covered with our drainage district crossing procedures. Conservation area, 600 feet or 110% of the total height. Cemeteries, 100 feet, and city limits, 1,600 feet from corporate limits.
I was just scrolling through Lynn County and the only setback I find is 50 feet from property lines. And I'm scrolling pretty quickly, but there's nothing that lists, those individual different things, and I know that the wind towers were different, but that's the only setback I see in Lynn County. Unless I'm missing it.
I guess the same thing applies to the private tile thing. Any of 100 other projects beyond solar could apply to the private tile problem too. I just don't, and I'm very open to having an education, but you gotta tell me why solar is different from somebody putting up a grain bin site and I'm open to listening, but tell me why this is this is something we're talking about.
well, we're talking about it because it's a commercial industry covering potentially hundreds of acres of ground rather than putting up a grain bin that's just a small footprint on your acreage, I mean, whatever it is, but this is different because it's 80 acres of solar, say, right next door to your house, of noise, glare, I mean, all that kind of stuff is there too, but it's, that's why we need to have something, so that it's just not going wherever and anywhere, but I would prefer to see a higher setback with an option of a waiver for your neighbors to preserve their quality of life as well. If it forces people to work with their neighbors, that would be, well, and other counties have done that too. I think Woodbury County has a mile setback for a wind turbine. Now, if you did a mile setback in Kossuth County from a residence, you're not gonna get anywhere. And we did all that data with the CO2 pipeline, so it just depends what direction the board wants to go and what do you wanna prioritize in the ordinance.
Yeah, and I mean,
I don't think any of those copy ordinances are gonna be a copy and paste to Kossuth County,
Well,
it's just,
Why couldn't we just have some kind of a workshop for this ordinance that we sit and we discuss all the different things of the, different aspects of the different ones that we look at
yep.
before we pursue getting an attorney and
Yep.
paying loads and loads of money?
Well, that's why we had mentioned it a couple weeks ago, just to start that process.
Well,
and
yeah,
look
but
at
I
those.
think we need to do more of that right here in the boardroom, not,
Yep.
hey, what'd you do at home, did you read that one? I think we need to have some discussions with,
Yep,
amongst ourselves, just specifically, and have these in front of us, and if there's any, yeah, we can look at them and read them ahead of
do
time,
you,
but a more, I don't wanna agree to hiring a lawyer, I'm not at that point.
well, and having a separate workshop where we've got our regular business of the day that's done, and then we just sit
Yeah,
and talk through our options is probably a
yeah,
more productive avenue to have that conversation rather than, oh, it's the next one on the agenda, let's talk about it.
yeah,
So,
I agree.
I'm
Have
good
it
with
at the
doing a
end of a
separate
meeting.
workshop and whether we just,
something we could
Or
even
some
do at
conversation.
on a 1 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon,
yep,
you know,
Yeah,
I mean,
just have it,
just
so
have
that's
that
what we're
all
talking about.
standalone, you know.
I do think so, I think that we need to have something like that and not just jump into.
Sure. No, that's very good, that's why
Cause
we're,
I'm definitely not ready to say, hey, let's do this thing, I mean,
I don't know that I am either, but that's why we needed to start this
yeah,
and
yeah.
can we schedule a workshop? What are you guys thinking for timeline?
I don't know, give us a couple weeks to kind of read some of these over and highlight some things that, you
So
know.
like on, today's the 4th, like on the 18th or the 25th, one of those two?
Either one, I don't care.
18th.
What's the, there's a moratorium on it right now.
There is, and that'll
When's
run
that
out in
June.
Oh, so we have.
well, but it takes time to.
Yeah, we gotta
Well,
figure out what the ordinance is gonna be. and-
Yeah, but if we do it in February, one of those
Yeah.
weeks, that's still
Yeah,
giving us time.
Correct.
Yeah, I'd say let's plan on the
Do the 18th at like 1 o'clock?
yeah.
Does that work for everyone?
Yeah.
Okay, let's schedule something for 18th at 1 o'clock then, solar workshop.
Okay.
Do you mind if I just
You got a
get a
question?
little, no, just
Yeah,
get
yeah.
a little input on a few of the things you talked about, maybe just kinda have a bird in your ear, something to think about up until that point, if
Put
that's,
his hand up too if you're letting people
Okay.
talk as well, just so you know.
oh, sorry.
Yeah, well, if you, a couple of you have a couple brief comments, that's fine. I know Rod had his hand up too there.
Yeah,
So, yeah, come on.
So I guess, okay.
Yeah, go ahead first.
Just, I came up here, so mine's.
Yep. Make it worth your drive.
So I guess just some things to think about prior to that, so setbacks wise, solar, it's typically quite a bit less than, you see on the wind side, like you mentioned in wind, it's typically, 50 to 100 feet from a resident, and then 100 to 200 feet from a property line. Part of that goes to just the height of solar panels, that's something else you typically see in, within the ordinance, is the max height. I guess the thing to think about there is obviously the max height and then the ground clearance below would work together, cause if you do, 5 foot and 15 foot max height, well now you only got 10 foot, which typically makes the project cover a larger footprint because the panels are smaller. But if you think 20 foot max height, or max tilt, I should say, the panels very rarely are tracking are straight up, so typically they're more, at some degree of an angle, so they're not quite 20 foot tall.
that typical for height for your projects?
20 is what we recommend for the most part. I think a lot of ordinances, I shouldn't say a lot, but a handful of ordinances, a couple that you mentioned, I believe say 15. But 15 to 20 seems to be what's in ordinances. We recommend 20 or just no max height, just cause, I mean, obviously they're not gonna be 100-foot tall solar panel. And then the ground vegetation goes into that, and then to talk about sound just real quick, cause I know that was mentioned, most of that is contained within the project. And the sound typically comes from the inverters, which is changing the current from AC to DC, or DC to AC, and that's just basically a fan running. People claim that when they're tilting, you can hear the electric motor running, but that's at a really low torque. I mean, I've been within a solar project, and when they're tilting, I can hold this conversation like this and not have to speak any louder or quieter. And then just one last thing that I know was mentioned, I know you mentioned Lynn County ordinance. The thing we recommend with Lynn County's ordinance when looking at it is just Lynn County's, you know, a more populous county, has bigger courthouse, bigger staff and stuff, so just really kind of looking at who's in charge of what. Some of these counties look at Lynn's ordinance and it's like, oh, it's a lot of pages, it must be really good or whatever it might be, but their county's not equipped with the staff that Lynn County has to handle all the different procedures that they have built into it, so that's all.
Alright, thank you, yep, thank you.
I was
Did
gonna
you have a
bring up
comment?
the north of town here, it's in the county property, but city of Algona is gonna annex it in so they could have solar. How's that going?
I believe that's their desire, but we haven't seen anything in writing to this point in the boardroom.
The annexation.
The
yeah,
annexation.
But the actual solar project,
Correct.
I don't know if we will ever get anything for that.
Yeah, I don't know that, I mean, we would vote on whether they would be allowed to annex that.
No, that's already done.
That's already done.
That, they already had their hearing for that, public hearing, I believe.
The board doesn't vote on our end on that at all?
No.
If we had an objection, we had to show up to that
Oh,
meeting.
guess I
It was done through the
misunderstood that.
city council, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
the meeting at the city council, that's.
So the city can just annex land in
That's done over.
We
without,
would have received a notice.
We did, and it was discussed here, passed.
So we
Okay.
could start a lot of new cities.
so you can what?
We could start a lot of new towns, in other words.
There you go, so,
If the city does annex it in, does that remove the county's ordinance?
It-
Negate?
it
then
would-
it's the city zoning that, not the county.
Yeah, it wouldn't impact substance.
No, so, well, we've got a drainage hearing at 9, so, any last thoughts on that, or we're gonna wait till the workshop on the 18th at 1 o'clock? That's good with everyone?
I think so, I think that would be good.
Alright. We'll go ahead with that then.
Okay.
If anyone needs
Take
to
a 5-minute break.
run to the restroom or anything, take a 5-minute break and we'll come back at 9.
Can we do Doug and secondary roads after the drainage hearing?
Yep, Doug, we'll do, right away and that kind of stuff after the drainage hearing. Alright.
Morning.
I'm tired.
Yeah, a lot different.
So I stopped the auditor's office last week.
Yeah.
I asked about drainage districts, I just go on the county website, and so is there a scientific way besides poke and hope to Define it, no, I'm serious, I mean.
Define a tile.
Define a drainage district.
Oh,
So like, do we have
You
this?
basically, so you got the maps that you look at, and you try to correlate the distances and
Get
stuff
that,
like
you're getting that, when you talk about maps, you're getting that off the
So there's,
website? There's
well,
big
we've
maps.
got, yeah, we've got the maps in there.
I understand.
And also, we've got our,
like, yeah, do you have a paper wall? Map wall, okay. I wonder.
From the C2 stuff.
No,
No.
no, for drainage district maps.
Oh,
I got the big like scroll.
yeah, they're like 3 foot by 3 foot squares.
So that's something that's expensive.
I got my former supervisor.
My question was, you know, so there's this thing is on the agenda, and you start going looking for, and I found drainage district 4, but I didn't find, you know.
Looking for what lateral.
Yeah.
No, I usually am just kind of scrolling around, trying to find it. And 4 is probably one of the worst to do that on, cause it's so big. But,
Yeah, I mean, for me, 4's pretty easy, because it's.
Well,
That's fine, you answered my question.
yeah, I have a hard time with it sometimes too.
Is there another one too, or just this one? I thought there was two, maybe.
There was 2.
Did we lose one?
I got this one and this one, but was there another one that looks like this?
yeah, it's sitting there.
Okay.
Oh,
Howard, you got your signature to go yet?
Okay, there's 3 for, 5.
Yeah.
Busy, I thought I was gonna walk into the packed room, there's no place to park, I'm parked behind Billy Joe's.
Very dry.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah,
saying.
I was gonna say,
That explains it.
upstairs.
I was like,
I know,
I just missed that by the week.
Thank you.
I was like, how many people are in
Do you have,
sub?
Tyler, do you have much for copies?
I don't have any for paper copies.
I don't know.
Did you wanna put something up on the?
I was planning on projecting, yeah.
That's probably just going into your drainage stuff now, right?
Thank you.
I'll send you guys an email of whatever I have on drainage. I know we don't want it in Franklin, so there might be something on file there.
Okay.
Thank you guys. Maybe,
So somebody, you talked about one down by Badger, who owns that?
is that, I'm sorry, I'm not super familiar with, is that like Fort Dodge?
Yeah.
We
Northeast
own,
of Fort Dodge.
we own, yeah, it's Holiday Creek.
400 acres?
700. That's our largest one, it's 100 blocks.
You drive down there, you'll find it. If I drive down there, I'll find it.
It's kind of hidden, a little bit, you'd be surprised.
Okay.
It's, unless you're actually like within it, it's kind of, you'll miss it.
Okay.
So, so you can look up Holiday Creek.
Solar. Address, yeah. Yeah. Yep. We could, I'm sure we could set up a tour for you.
I'll, probably see you on the 18th, maybe, whatever they send me to do. Yeah, have a good one, guys.
Bye,
Yeah.
thank you. Hi, Marge.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I didn't see that. I saw the email.
We did get a draft of the animal ordinance here from Todd just now.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, just a minute ago.
Oh, yep, I see it too. Do you want me to print it out?
I mean, we can take a peek at it now, or we can look at it later, we can always go back, so to speak, but we can always discuss it next week. No, I asked Heather.
I'm sending parts of it because the combined one's really big.
Too much, okay.
So I'm sending everything except the original plans and the preliminary plan. But
Yeah, we don't need those.
Right.
Projecting.
Yeah.
Are you hooking up to that?
Yeah.
Is this gonna shut all of them off? That'll work.
I think we've done a lot of correct me if I'm wrong, but they have the money, either state groups, west. So that's good, okay.
Alright, it is after 9 o'clock here, so we're gonna go ahead and, need a motion to open the public hearing for repair of DD4 Subdistrict 9 lateral 11 tile.
So moved.
Motion by Stecker
Second.
and second by Garmin. Any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. Motion carries unanimous. Okay, public hearing is open. Tyler, did you wanna go ahead and
Yeah, I
present
can,
what you have?
good morning all, I'm Tyler Conley, professional engineer who was assigned to review the potential plan for a repair project through a portion of the drainage district number 4, sub drainage district number 9 for the replacement of portions of drainage district 4 lateral 11 and sub drainage district number 9's main tile. This district lies generally just, this sub-district portion of 4 lays generally north of Bancroft. The area in particular that we're talking about is just to the east of Highway 169. On this map, the black lines are representing the district tile facilities. Blue lines are open ditch facilities, and the green is what generally what the Ducks Unlimited plan through the Union Slough representatives represents as the proposed replacement. There was, and it's my understanding this has been some time in the making, there's been review and televising of the tile facilities through the federal ground there. The original plat of the sub-district, I believe, was never completed to an as-built state. It shows that there is only one tile facility that goes through that ground. On this plat is what I'm referring. However, there have been found 2, and upon review of the district history, though it is not shown, they make it clear in writing that there are 2 that go through that ground. There's currently a 24 and an 18-inch that join to a junction box structure just to the south of that ground, where they're met by 2 tile from the west that combine into 2 that go to the south. So those lines are there. They've been investigated, reviewed via televising, and found to have been in some areas completely compromised with damage. They are failing, and to the point that the east tile shows very little flow at all. So, in an attempt to work with the Union Slough representatives who manage that ground to get a repair together, they had Ducks Unlimited put together a plan for replacement of those 2 lines, again the 18-inch and the 24-inch, with one 36-inch line that would take a more direct route straighter through that federal ground, to replace the capacity that the two lines there currently have. The Union Slough has submitted for a grant for the covering of the materials needed to make that connection, to make that replacement. What they had submitted for their grant and have assured is attached in the report as the cost estimate. Anything that was listed with a KCDD was their interpretation of the district's responsibilities, that being the installation of those materials. Anything that was marked with a G or a DU was not the district's responsibility. That's a pretty big deal to have what is essentially the federal government offering to pay for a portion of a repair project, any sort of drainage district project, as they normally ignore or turn back on any assessments that they are issued. They see them as taxes, and they see themselves as not being, taxes not being applicable to them, even the drainage district taxes. So in review of the district's capacity, those two lines there are currently providing not quite 8 cubic feet per second of water flow. The proposal, because it is a larger sized pipe and takes a more direct route, therefore it is slightly steeper, is able to carry just over 16 cubic feet per second of water, meaning that the proposal doubles the capacity of what those two lines are providing now. However, because it's right now slated to join at that existing junction box, there would be no realized increase in capacity because of that repair project. The system downstream of that will have the same carrying capacity, so until something's done downstream, none of that additional capacity would be realized. The reason that we're going with, or the proposal has that there's a 36, is because of the way that conventional pipe sizes go, typically in 6-inch increments, until you get to larger sizes, then it's 12-inch increments, foot increments. We couldn't go with a smaller sized pipe on this more direct route and use a singular one and still get the capacity that those two lines are providing. So to drop down a conventional size drops you out of that capacity. So we have to go larger, which the code allows for the replacement of lines at conventional sizes in the most economical manner and still be considered as a repair. So that's why I've held that this, even though they're, for that segment, those lineal feet, I would be considering this a repair project. There are, and have been brought up to me, and just from a little bit of further investigation on those plans, I'd like to coordinate with them on some questions I have. One, there's segments of 18-inch, it seems like the 18-inch tile they have listed, I can only really account for about 950 feet of it, and there's another 860 feet listed that I don't see on their preliminary plans. So that's something that would have to certainly be worked out with them. Additionally, I'd like to see this continue south out of the federal ground to the, essentially replace where the existing junction box is. I wouldn't want to see a junction box connected to 100-year-old pipe that goes to another junction box, when for another couple hundred feet we could go downstream, replace that junction box and make a proper connection and better utilize the project that we're getting here. There's on the televising report, on the 12-inch tile that is coming in from the west into the federal ground, though I don't know is that this project addresses it, there is a utility wire that was found that seems to have been bored through or trenched through the existing lateral that's there. So we'll need to find out what utility that is and have that relocated, but that's just something that upon review is gonna be worth noting. And that's something that I don't believe that repair I do not believe should be at the expense of the district either. That just needs to be coordinated and that utility needs to be relocated.
And that would be in the state right of way.
Correct. Yep. There's nowhere listed for the, I'd want, clarification for what the seating protocol is going to be, and to make sure that that was also, not a district expense, or if it is, we need to know about it, and typically, we would consider damages on a project. I'm simply not sure how the Union Slough is examining those damages, or thinking that we're going to handle damages. Let's see, and then the last thing was the plan also calls for replacement of, again, portions of 18 and 15-inch pipe. There's been a question asked of me if the grant requires that those be kept at those sizes, or if it would be more economical to replace those essentially 900 feet instead of doing 2, continuing with 1, what would probably be about a 24-inch pipe. But I'm not sure as far as the grant, what the requirements are of that are. I was a little hopeful that there'd be representation from the slough here, but I don't see them. Other than a few of those clarifications that I think are at least worth bringing up to them as they finalize plans on this, this does what it sets out to do. It protects the district's capacity, it replaces 100-year-old pipe, and a fair more than half of it is covered by the grant that's been secured by the Union Slough. So I think it's a very worthwhile endeavor. It's something that would need to be done. The capacity of the system, the code states that it shall be conserved, and it's in a failed state right now, not providing drainage to the areas that utilize that facility. So with that, any questions from anyone?
We talked earlier, and you're talking cubic feet per second, which is a little foreign language for people that have participated in drainage projects. Do you know what the drainage coefficient is here now?
I do, yes. I've actually, since we spoke, done the calculations on that, that's what I've projected up here now. These are the cumulative drainage capacities of the lines that serve the different areas. So I've broken it down for each one of those segments into the amount of water it's able to carry and the land that it's being tasked with carrying. What the entirety of the system is running at is right around that 0.15 inches per day, or 30% of the half-inch drainage coefficient.
And that's what the new system is gonna give,
yeah. That is what the old system would be, because that doubles, you go from about you go from 0.114 to 0.25 essentially, but you're still looking at 50% of the half-inch drainage coefficient, even with that realized. If you were able to drain downstream
I
faster.
don't care about that, I just wanna know about the new pipe.
Right, yes, the new portion that they're planning to put in would be at 0.25 inches per day.
So it's a quarter.
Right. Yeah.
And you figured it on, it looks like 29 acres.
For the entire, that was for the entirety,
That's good.
the area that portion drains is smaller because it's up in the watershed from it. But the entirety of the
Oh, I see that. Well, see, that's the whole deal is, you know, you'd have to figure out the amount of acres that were going actually into that new pipe.
Right, and that's what that number is.
Okay.
The 1641. So for a comparison and what even doing this, and that again always takes into account that that's the ideal conditions. That's assuming that it's installed at the proper grade, that there's not any sort of misalignments or deformations. The capacities that are displayed there are the best that the system could be. It's likely less because of age.
So if they had free flow on the downside of that new pipe, it'd just be a quarter inch drainage coefficient.
Correct.
And then, on this report, I kinda went through it. Ducks Unlimited did all the design, is that correct?
Correct.
And then, were they the ones that copied the profiles out of the historical records on the existing pipe, or did you do that?
Everything that's in their plans here
Okay.
is from them.
Okay.
My review, where I got the capacities from, that was my review of the
Okay.
records.
Yeah, I'm just asking how much you contributed to this report, that's all. And then the map with the different colors on it, you know, for open ditching, you provided that?
Correct.
Okay.
I did my own independent review of the district records and capacities and calculations to cross-check against what they provided to make sure that the district was getting what was promised in those plans.
Did you find any reason to believe their plan wasn't fully adequate?
Other than what has been brought up for, a few, what I'll call them clarifications or extensions to replace that junction box, or, combinations of smaller laterals into one to limit pipe runs, I really see it as a very good compromise for their goals as well as the district's. They have outlined in here their intent to restore some of those low-lying pothole areas. This more direct route that doesn't weave through those areas gets the district pipe out of those locations, it shortens its length, and it makes it so that if anything, if it gets plugged or we have to go in there again to do that, we're out of essentially the more wet conservation areas that they want to see out there. All while replacing lines that we know have completely collapsed. About the only thing I'd say for it is that the only thing that I would be any bit concerned about is that if you do something in the middle, it blocks what your potential grade for something downstream would potentially be, because you always would have that pipe at that elevation, right? And without a review of downstream, what potential grade you could get, if there was any interest in improvements now or then into the future, what we're held at is what that new pipe that's been put in at its elevation. It's hard to then gain upstream of that, right? That's what my biggest concern would be. And I haven't, aside from providing those values, which was something that I was able to do rather quickly, there hasn't been a review of what it would take to get something downstream of that. That wasn't the intent of the report or what I was directed to do.
Would the timeline be to check that, everything south of that junction box to the dredge ditch? How much time would that take, and what are we looking at for months or years, or? And then how would that play with the Ducks Unlimited?
Well, the district could, it would take a call from benefited landowners to have that, there'd have to be a desire to look at that. And, repairs by code are required. I don't know is that there's a big call for if segments of that have failed, or if we're seeing issues that would need to be repaired downstream of it. For improvements, because of the ability for remonstrance, it's always my recommendation that there be a considerable amount of support for any potential improvement. Meaning that remonstrance can stop a project if the majority of landowners by count owning 70% of the ground by area, if they object, it stops an improvement project. And the thought is there better be, it's best to have support for those before we get too much of my time into it. We get a working preliminary plan, which takes time, effort, and money, just for that to be squashed by lack of popularity, right? But with that support and a petition, that could be looked at to continue it downstream. Of course, the grant is only as good for what it is good for, and I do not know what the timeline on it is when that money's all sunsets. But it wouldn't be creating a whole nother report, right? Because a lot of that work, a lot of the groundwork has already been done. I would think for another 10 to 12,000, you'd be able to get the survey, appropriate sizings, and get a plan put together with an estimate for what that would cost. But again, that hasn't been called for, so.
And I guess to add on to that, if that was desired or that approach was pursued at this point, that throws into question or potentially affects all the work that has been done this far for this project. I mean, there's, I think, several of you in the room that are aware that this has been an issue for quite a while. So I I would be a little bit concerned about endangering the opportunity that we have on the plate right now with the grant that the Union Slough has secured. But that's all up for discussion. If you guys feel an improvement's necessary, we can definitely have that, but Tyler did make a good point. Those projects are typically more successful if there is a strong support or desire from the district, so. Anyone have any thoughts on the improvement side of things, or the potential of that?
Or any other questions on what has been presented?
Can I get a copy of the?
Yeah.
What's in the original, I just wanna hand it to.
Absolutely, yeah, if you just wanna swing up by the office after,
Oh, okay.
after this, I'll get you.
Thank you.
That goes for anybody that wants one too, I didn't bring copies with me.
Now, if you look at the elevations of the historical records, wouldn't you be able to determine how much fall was thrown away from the starting of the pipe to the back? I think, I looked at it, it seems like they gave up like about 10 foot pretty quick and laid her flat.
Well, I would if I knew what I don't have anything to correlate today's elevations with what the historical profiles are. Beyond the segment that's here. I don't have anything, I know what the grades and everything downstream were, but I didn't put that to actual paper to examine the throwaway of grade. That was a little outside the scope of what we're doing here, right? Because I could tell you, hey, we're losing this much, you lose this much grade, but we can't hardly put this 36-inch at that grade right now.
Right, yeah.
Without, because, you know, we'll just be running it into dirt.
Well, if you had it in the junction box, wouldn't it?
Would.
Well, and if you were doing something, you need to figure out your sizes, so you know your cover and top of a pipe, bottom of a pipe, all.
Right, yeah, it's all,
factors are
right.
part of the equation.
It's the geometry of everything that hasn't been reviewed.
You talk about the grant being secured, that's money in the bank, no doubts on that?
That's as it's been described to me.
Yeah, and that's what I've gotten as well from.
In correspondence
Ed
from Ed.
At the union, so, yep.
Zero risk?
Hell.
I mean,
As far as I know, zero risk.
The obvious question, change in administration and things are getting canceled if the paperwork isn't finalized, and I'm hearing stories like that. I don't know
so
any
this
accuracy.
grant would have been approved prior to the new year and stuff, so it's been approved, I don't know, late last fall. I don't remember exact timeline, but.
If anything has changed, it has not been brought to my attention.
It'd be important to remember that somebody's gotta pay the bill. If you do a project and the money's not there, somebody's gotta pay the bill, right?
Absolutely.
And you already said that the federal government's not gonna, other than, so. And when you get done with this, you're talking about a 1/4 inch coefficient as it lays, as you make the improvement.
Only for that section, and it doesn't impact the rest of the facility. So you're still going to be at the 0.15 for the entirety of the district. This is just approximately, we'll just say 3,000 feet that will have a higher potential capacity, but until it has a better outlet, it won't ever be realized.
So that's not exactly a Rip Snorton coefficient.
No.
Might be better than what it's doing now, but it's not really all that, it ever.
beyond.
Yeah, and Tyler talked about it a little bit before, but there's two tile lines, and the east tile line towards the southeast corner of the federal ground, the closest place we found it to the property line, there was maybe 2 inches of open, space at the top of the pipe, the rest was completely filled, with sediment, so.
My point is, I appreciate it's in bad shape and the improvement's gonna make it better, but it's not gonna be a miracle work.
Right, yeah, no, it should be stressed that what this does will only bring it back to the original design capacity, and it doesn't, it's not able to do more than that.
Just wanna make sure everybody understands that.
Right.
You're gonna spend, I assume, a lot of money,
Yeah, the cost estimate provided with the preliminary plans was, for the district's portion, not quite $143,000 for the installation of all the work. Now, of course, this all gets bid, and numbers could come in lower. We've seen pretty good labor and material rates recently.
Kyle, do you know how that grant was written? If the cost of the pipe came in bid less, are we getting that full grant amount if this goes through for the project?
I
Or if the
don't-
pipe comes in less, will the grant be less?
I think the grant would be less because I don't think they can pay for all the installation and all that with the grant. That's kind of the way Ed had explained it to me, is they could write it for the materials, but usually when they get grants, they have to have the room in their budget to do the install, even if it's another project they're doing or whatever, so.
So the only place we would save on this
Would be
as
cheaper
landowners
labor.
would be the installation side.
To my knowledge, yes, yep. Which a 50% cost share from the federal government, and whether it's this grant or something else, I still feel that's pretty solid contribution, cause if that parcel was actually assessed on the schedule like a normal landowner, they would pay significantly less than that, just because of their acres in relation to the whole district, so. I think we got the best scenario we possibly could get in that regard, but yeah, you're right, the potential cost savings would only be on the installation side, to my knowledge. And Tyler did read off the figure for the contracts portion of this. They do have mobilization in the grant, which is figured at 10,000. So that would bring that section down a little bit on its own, but they don't have any of the other install as covered by the grant. And I don't know if that's anything that can be modified if the price comes down or not. I mean, I know they have the dollar figure for their materials, that was submitted to the grant, which is, the subtotal on that is $232,300. So they have those figures in the grant, but I don't know if we save 10% there, if it can translate into anything else, I'm not sure. But good question.
I noticed on the, well, it's going through the historical records and also this, deal here, he has 2,900 acres up here, but when you look at the assessment schedule, there's only 2,700 acres left on the district, and I'm assuming that was because U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service was taken off. And I think the total units assessed is a little over 8,000. I think they start out with 10. So the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service does not pay a tax. So whatever's assessed to the county is gonna be on the 2,700 acres and the 8,000 units. Those are roundabout figures.
Probably, yep.
Is that the way it is?
Well, I mean, I don't have any of that in front of me, but if their acres and their benefit was reduced, then yeah, that's probably correct.
It would be on, they would be assessed against the schedule that's included in the report. So that if the values are what you stated, then correct.
Okay, I didn't understand you. What report are you talking about?
The engineer's report, I believe, doesn't have the assessment,
No.
the county assessment schedule in it. No, I may not have, there is a standing schedule for the
Yeah, I've
sub-district.
seen that, I have.
It would be utilizing that one.
Right,
Yeah,
okay,
correct.
I'm just asking,
Yep.
because I'm just seeing a difference in it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we've talked about this for 80 and those other districts that would have federal ground included. If we sent an assessment and expected them to pay and then they don't, then their portion that remains unpaid stays as an outstanding balance that might not get ever collected. So it's in the district's best interest to make sure the assessment is sufficient to cover the outstanding balance, so.
So are you carrying a balance for the federal government, like on that DD-80 deal? Cause you just kinda stated it that way.
No, I'm saying if we sent them, say for example, there's $1 million bill and their portion of it was 50,000 and we had them still on the assessment schedule to pay that 50,000, then they don't pay it, it stays as an outstanding balance and continues to earn interest and all that, so.
You don't spread it then?
That's my point, is their benefit should be reduced so that it's properly spread to everybody.
So now you're saying that you spread that 50,000 to the rest of the district?
The landowners are the only ones that can pay that, and the federal government has repeatedly refused to pay their assessments. So that's where those benefits have been reduced in other situations.
You didn't answer my question. The question is, you got 50,000 sitting there that you said was the government's, okay? And it's just sitting there, it's not gonna be paid, you know, and you say you're just sitting on that money. I'm asking you, did that 50,000 get spread to the people who are already paying on the district? What did you do with that?
It should in that scenario, yes.
Well, I don't wanna come like 6-7 years later with a whole bunch of interest and then.
I'm not trying to open up a whole nother can of worms, I know that's the direction you're going, but that's
No,
not
I'm
what
not,
we're
I'm just
talking
asking,
about.
we don't want this outstanding debt.
That's my point, is the assessment schedule needs to be accurate to the point that it will get paid correctly. So, if their benefit was reduced, then that is functionally going to get the results that are expected. So. There's really no other option. I mean, we could send them a bill and they could continue to say they're not gonna pay it forever, but that's not a good solution.
Well, what is your solution?
I already said it.
What was it? Say it again, cause I didn't understand it.
I'm not gonna explain this, Joe, I'm just
I don't know why you can't answer a simple question.
I think everybody else in the room understands it, so.
Any more comments and questions on the project we're discussing here?
Is there any strong desires as far as completing this repair or trying to pursue any sort of information towards an improvement? I guess that's a fork in the road that we need to discuss at this point in time. Is there strong support for something of that nature or opposition to something of that nature as far as an improvement? Does anyone have any opinion? Okay, well, I guess I'm not hearing any response, so I would assume proceeding with the repair is the only viable option at this point until we receive any other paperwork to the contrary.
We do have objections.
Okay, those could be read.
Well, it's just, these are both the same, I think. No, they are different.
You want me to explain them?
They look like the same paper at first as all.
Well, here's
yeah.
the deal. We had land that we own that I know is not gonna receive any benefit on this. So I objected to how the bill might possibly be spread. I'm not objecting to the project, I'm objecting to the probability of land that I own being subject to an assessment that it doesn't derive any benefit to. And then we have another land holding company that we do have land on this repair. I'm not against the repair. I just stated after reviewing the assessment schedule and the 142 or 42,000 that's gonna have to be, I'm assuming that's an approximate amount that land holding company is gonna have to pay. It does have land that is not subject to assessment in this. And the only reason I put those objections in is because it seemed to me like they sent notices out on the whole, like the open ditch schedule. That's what it seemed like to me. And so I just wanted to be clear that this was for the tile and that the tile assessment should be used. That's it.
Would you like me to read your objection, or?
Well, if you understand it, like, you can go ahead and read it if you want, yeah, go ahead.
They should.
They should probably be read in the meeting.
Either you or Tyler.
Go ahead.
Okay.
You have them.
You sure? Alright, objection to DD four lateral 11 tile repair engineered by Bolton Mank, project number 0P1129036. Kossuth County Supervisor Trustees Carter Nath, Josh Wachter, Kyle Stecker, Amber Garmin, Howard Haas, and Kossuth County Auditor Tammy Eden. Global Assets was notified by mail that the company's land would be part of the project that was just previously named on DD four lateral 11 tile fund number 51032. This notification was by the auditor Tammy Eden. Global Assets was sent the classification schedule by Tammy Eden's drainage clerk Marge Mergen for fund number 51032, which was indicated to be the classification schedule to be used for Bolton and Mank project number OP1129036. Global Assets does not own any land that would be subject to an assessment on the project presented by Bolton and Mank for DD4 lateral 11 tile fund number 51032. Therefore, Global Assets objects to paying for any segment of the project located in the east half of Harrison 36 of Kossuth County, Iowa, pertaining to Bolton and Mank project number OP1.129036 DD4 lateral 2 tile fund number 51032. Sincerely, Joe Goshi, registered agent for Global Assets LLC. And the second objection is for the same repair engineered project by Bolton and Mank, project number 0P1.129036. This is also to Kossuth County Supervisor Trustees Carter Nath, Josh Wachter, Kyle Stecker, Amber Garmin, Howard Haas, and Kossuth County Auditor Tammy Eden. Global Enterprises LLC was notified by mail that the company's land would be part of the project Bolton and Mank of the project named above on DD4 lateral 11 tile fund number 51032. This notification was by the auditor Tammy Eden and appears to include land outside of the project area. Global Enterprises LLC was sent the classification schedule by Tammy Eden's drainage clerk Marge Mergen to fund number 51032, which was indicated to be the classification schedule to be used for Bolton and Mank project number OP1.129036. Global Enterprises LLC does own 119 acres of land that would be subject to assessment on the project presented by Bolton and Mank for the 4 lateral 11 tile fund number 51032. Global Enterprises LLC has 119 acres with 436.8 units assessed out of the total of 8,539.62 total units assessed, equaling 5% of the estimated bill of $142,688.00. Global Enterprises estimated levy for Union Slough repair is about $7,134.40 on lead yard section 31 southwest quarter 119 acres, amounting to $59.95 per acre. Global Enterprises LLC objects to paying for any segment of the project located in the east half of Harrison 36 of Kossuth County, Iowa, pertaining to Bolton and Mank project number OP1.129036 DD4 lateral 11 tile fund number 51032 for land that is owned by Global Enterprises LLC and assessed on DD4 lateral 11 open ditch Fund number 51033 and is not included in DD4 lateral 11 Tile Fund number 51032. Sincerely, Joe Goshi, Registered Agent for Global Enterprises LLC. Okay,
Are there any other objections, or is that the only ones we received?
no further objections then?
Any other questions or input from landowners here?
Okay. Well,
Hearing
Yeah,
none,
yeah,
I'd move to
it-
close the public hearing.
we have a motion to close the public hearing. Is there a second to?
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Stecker, second by Wactor, to close the public hearing. Any discussion on the motion? I think we'll do a roll call for that. Roll call vote, please.
Haas, Garmin,
Yes.
Stecker,
Yes.
Wactor,
Yes.
Nah.
Yes. Okay, motion carries unanimously.
For action today, Tyler, are you looking for direction to proceed with, bid letting and communication with the SLU and all that type of stuff?
Well, yeah, I think really where I see my responsibility moving forward in this is to coordinate with this, with Ed, with the SLU, what we've discussed here today, bring up the issues that have been addressed and let them know what we'd like to see or what needs to be done for them to proceed. So, I guess direction to make those continued correspondence.
And then we would need to go to bid letting.
Right, but I think I believe their intent is to handle that.
Okay.
I believe they'll need to come to you to file their final plans, and I'll let them know that
Well,
they,
whatever we need, yeah.
right, that they'll need to bring the final plans and specifications to the district to coordinate a bid letting.
Okay. Well, I would make a motion to direct Tyler, or direct Bolton and Mink to proceed with communication with, the Union SLU and Ducks Unlimited and any other interested parties to facilitate this repair getting to completion.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second to that? Second by Haas. Everyone understand the motion? Any questions, discussion? If not, roll call vote please.
Okay, sorry. Haas,
Yes.
Garmin, Stecker,
Yes.
Wactor,
Yes.
Nah.
Yes. Alright, motion is unanimous, carried. Thank you all for coming in and okay. We can go back to right away, which Doug just walked
Doug just
out.
went out, so he's probably grabbing his stuff.
Yep, yep,
Oh, okay.
well, okay,
We'll take a
yep,
5-10 minute
we'll
break.
take a 5-10 minute break here and come back at, why don't you come back at 10 and we'll,
Okay.
thanks Marge.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Marge. We'll listen through it.
Yes. Yep, yep.
Thank you.
You bet, thank you. Thanks, Tyler.
Yeah, thank you.
Or were they south?
Go to the bathroom. The fact that there's no rain for bathrooms. You're still looking good too.
Your section, you're on there all again. Personally,
Yeah.
We're on break till 10, so we'll start at that time.
Okay, that's what I thought, maybe.
How are you guys doing? Got any questions? That's good. TJ?
Hey there. Actually, I don't know, I have a quick question. So, I guess if you have a great farm or that larger farm. So it goes up north and then meets James or whatever.
By the ditch, yeah.
Yeah, well, I got the sense of that tile usually basically starts the open ditch, right? It goes right into the northern end of the open ditch.
It's probably 300 feet south of the property line, I bet, so you wouldn't have much of an assessment.
Well, I mean, I got this, I know that I don't have much, but the thing is even, you know, what Jay and Ryan, put that culvert in and covered up and everything.
Yep,
Doesn't,
bringing the ditch farther down.
yeah, bringing it, I mean, that's what, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something, or whatever, but this tile doesn't come down into my property, does it? Doesn't it dump into the open ditch?
Yeah, so it dumps in actually right on the south side of that driveway, so it comes all the way through there. So that whole corner would probably be what you're asking for.
It comes right up into the old open ditch, why wouldn't
No,
it just?
it doesn't. So these blue lines are the exact layout of where that tile is. So it never goes over there. And that's one of the lawsuits we're doing. Here, as he's saying, there's a 6-inch tile that comes from here over to the open ditch, it's not there. We televise that whole section. And when we televise it, they put flags in the ground, and I recorded the GPS locations the whole way. So this is where it splits into two, it's right there in the field. You can actually see the hole where we
I've got your,
on the actual.
do ya? I've got your stuff. Don't let me forget it.
30 feet off the fence line, it splits into two, and then it goes to the junction box here, where it continues
Yeah.
to two. But these dots,
Covering it a little bit.
exactly, like within 10 feet, represent where that tile is. So it.
I've been keeping up with sleep, or not
He
really?
slept for 6 hours straight last night.
Correct,
Wow.
that's what he's making.
Better than Abby.
Yeah, I don't expect that to continue, but, cause he wasn't,
So this would have
or he was
actually
screaming from 6 to 11 last night. I think he was just tired.
They saw
I don't know.
a line on.
It's like he wake up.
Yeah, yeah.
They assumed there was.
Well, I remember those days.
Yeah, yeah.
There's no record supporting
So
this.
you wanna hear them moving and doing something, but at the same time you don't because you wanna stay
You wanna
asleep.
sleep, yeah,
That used
yeah.
to be there, so it's, when you look at the map like here,
It's
it's
just not lying
offset.
over where it's.
Yep, so you gotta have that in context, when you look at all these maps, everything
Last night?
is typically
Okay.
offset somewhere.
She's been doing the same one.
And
We've
that's
had those
why
nights
we're
too,
trying to
yeah.
gather
wakes up in the middle of the night and then just,
Because then in time, once we
for whatever reason, he decided to sleep on Christmas. So we tried to figure out, like,
But we're still trying to gather data.
go to later
to
down,
make that happen.
eyes just pop wide open, and it's
You
like,
can see exactly.
you're like, come on.
So.
I wanna go back to sleep. Yeah,
Open ditch, why run it even?
Made for a rough morning this
Let me
morning.
tell you, that's where it's at.
Get out of
So,
bed.
if you go out to that driveway,
Yeah.
you'll find that head wall right there, and that's.
Realizing I didn't have
So
no
you
coffee,
have-
I'll just hit Casey's real quick, well, Casey's was not real quick, was hopping.
Just when you look at the really.
Then I get here trying to open my door and spill my coffee.
I can tell. You tell it was
Yeah.
Your guys
Yeah.
are thousands in your property. Probably 1,100 if I was to guess, because it was a little more than that. But that's what your assessment would be based off of, where they expect the water coming to that pond. Yep. And that wouldn't change, I mean, if it went higher up in the ditches at the top end, then it would, but it doesn't. So that your assessment would be based off your small piece of use right at the bottom. And there's factors for how much of the system you're using, so that's why your assessment would be so low, is because your factor is
Well,
as small as it
any,
can get.
any tile that I have up there, and the same thing really with Goshi's, if you're not dumping in this ditch, no one's ever gonna connect to a tile. We're just gonna go,
Yeah.
bring our own tile out and connect to that ditch. You know, why get into another system, it's
And
already
there's-
overground.
Right, and there's factors for proximity to the open ditch, so that's one of those, is your proximity to the open ditch will be high, so your assessment on the actual tile system will be low. And you won't see all those factors, because those. Yeah,
The units there, that's probably for the one that's further away.
probably, yep. And so this would, I couldn't tell you the date of when that was done. If we did a reclassification, that could fluctuate, but you wouldn't probably get entirely removed because it does go through the property. But you're not gonna get much smaller than that probably.
Okay. So are you in charge of German Township?
No.
You're not? Who's that fellow?
Amber would be now,
Oh, okay.
if you
I
have
just-
something there that you need.
Well, I just, well, we have a creek, access to a creek, but yet a good chunk of some ground flows south and it starts that really long, slow tile that goes through Bartels.
Okay, yeah.
It goes southwest.
Over to my parents.
Yeah, probably over here. Well, we got a creek to the north of us. We have a whole parcel,
Yeah.
south, it's actually in between that whole
Do you have enough elevation to pile into that?
Well, we just have to, something will have to get dug in. Oh, we can run it, well, we can run it through the other field. It's gonna kind of take a long way around, but we're gonna have to move it mountain.
Right.
But I mean, that's the thing is there's that ridge, that natural ridge is.
If you wanted to cross district lines in that way, the proper way to do it is to request a voluntary annexation. Then you would be, in essence, your grounds would be engineered, and it would be, you go through the process, you would have public hearing, all that. But if you're going to break the ditch, there's really no.
Are we going to Doug now, is that where we're going?
Yep.
So it's pretty much, if you're not doing a district tile, if you're doing a private, you're not gonna
No,
have.
I don't know where that
That
came
was
from for
the
sure.
parcels for Swayze.
Oh, do you want me to do it?
Sure, that's.
So now that we actually have the ordinance and we have not adjourned for the day,
We can go back.
can we go back and talk about it and
Yep, once we're,
possibly get the ball rolling on getting that, move forward?
that was the
Kicking
plan.
that can down the road for.
But I know, I thought Todd just sent it out, so we'll definitely discuss it.
Yep, yep.
Probably go talk tomorrow.
Roger did reply to that as well.
I saw, yeah, did see that.
Annexation from this room to the next one, so she helps with the rest of that. Then we would appoint an engineer, which goal, we won't get one, that's probably primarily, but it could be any engineer. And then they would help walk through the process of doing the annexation.
Be good to get that tool.
I'm just curious, and as of right now, we're just, we just need to get that.
Okay.
You still go out Saturday mornings?
Yeah,
Yeah.
usually.
Because
I
there's
need
tile
to
flowers.
get out there and say hello to everyone.
Yeah, and you can't have that.
But, so like the north half already.
The varsity group is usually there, they get up and leave at 7 o'clock and go over to 8 and 7.
Oh, really?
South half.
They'd rather eat there every day. And,
Yeah,
another,
So we're gonna.
Tom Buster, Junior Christensen, and I think it's Dan Eaton.
Then at that
starts
south
coming,
pond, that's right
kind of
across
merged
from
in
the house.
or whatever, just the way the tables are.
We can cut into there, and run into the corner of our car farm, what's all the low ground, and go right to the creek. It's gonna be a good.
Different things that you don't otherwise,
Sure.
don't otherwise hear.
I'm not, I have no way, shape, or form.
So that's cost.
I don't know what I started.
When you say
Depends on the
Bill and Chris, did they
set up, cause like, CRP, like you really can't graze that, but
Still farm,
that's different than
Oh,
you.
yeah, I know.
Right.
Jackson,
Yeah.
Bill,
So I didn't know that because it being the waterfowl. Oh, yeah.
How
They were
serious,
allowed, I don't know, maybe just a portion of it, I have no idea. Yeah.
bypass.
Right.
Evidently they were having problems.
I was just curious to look at it.
Oh, really?
It sounds like they're on the house, flying for the.
We would be taking
I
out.
talked to him, I didn't even realize she was having surgery, but it was like the weekend after.
But it's the one you're talking about, those are your parents, you know, that's.
You could tell the way Sarah was talking.
Yeah, and I'm clear, that literally starts right after.
I'm not 100% sure of.
And if,
I do, I am sure that we got delayed.
Yeah.
Then, you know, it should have been,
if you do that, plus do your
Spoken right
annexation process,
in.
but you have to
He
also
said Saturday.
abandon the other one, so you're not benefiting both.
That is good.
Yep, and that's just to be fair for
I
everybody.
mean, she got
Cracks.
everything, it wasn't just a, I mean, no matter what, it's.
Why didn't before you?
Yeah, I sent out that to you guys.
Oh,
Physical condition, of course, makes a difference, but age, so you're aware of it.
yeah.
Bill had.
Just gonna get the thing
And
out.
no
Oh,
matter
no,
what.
I see what you're saying. No, I did not.
Okay.
Sorry, I
They're messing
said
around with
that,
your
but,
heart, there's a,
Scares, yeah.
yeah, I mean, to think of that they are able
Have a
to
good one.
do that, it's, they put valves and everything else in it.
It's when they put them in from, going through your leg, I don't understand. how they do that. But it's a lot less invasive.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, my father, he went to, he was having some issues and they went and tried to put in some stents and they could not do it, but he was not a candidate for open heart either because of his health.
Yeah,
But,
Down here, and I thought this was gonna be
that was
for
difficult, him just
east
going
of
in
town.
there.
That's terrible.
This is up by,
They
So-
shot it.
okay,
They
yeah.
had knee surgery.
Cause I know they were doing east out of town.
Right.
Sexton, right. This spring, I didn't realize they were doing this as well.
It's amazing.
Well, I think that's their goal, to get it all
What they can do.
expensive. Yeah, but. Okay. Well, we're after 10 o'clock here, so guys in the back, if you guys wanna continue the conversation, we're gonna, you go out in the hall or something, we're gonna continue our meeting here now. Thank you for coming in, but, yeah, Doug, go ahead, if there's some construction the right away.
Yeah, we have one request for construction of the road right away. It comes from Interstate Power Light. There's a new home that was constructed on the Laverne Sexton Road, and this is to put in a transformer on an existing pole and put in overhead lines to that building. Very little work in the road right away, but they are requesting permission, and I would recommend that the board would grant that permission.
Okay. I'll move to approve the construction the right away here.
I'll second.
Alright, second by Haas. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Motion carries unanimous. Anything else in the right of way?
That is the only request that we have here, so if you would go ahead and sign that there, please. Thank you.
We can roll into discussion then.
We do have, there's a request from the Iowa DOT, on the agenda.
Oh, I'm
as
sorry,
well.
yep, I went right by that. Approval of the US, yeah, 18D tour agreement, we can go to that.
There's a copy of the motion and a copy of the location. We were just made aware that, last week that, the Iowa Department of Transportation is planning to do some bridge or culvert reconstruction. This would be on Highway 18 between Whitmore and Cylinder, and it would be for this summer. They are planning a detour route that begins right north of Cylinder, runs east a half a mile, then north 3 miles, and then east 6 miles. A mile of that road, B20 or the Fairville Road, is located in Kossuth County, and the DOT would be requesting to use that road. The DOT does reimburse counties for detour routes based on traffic counts and fuel tax usage. So we do get a little bit of a reimbursement. Did talk with Palo Alto County. It's not going to be on the Palo Alto County's board agenda this week, but the county engineer said that he was going to recommend approval. There's no construction. That's actually a road that recently has had some improvements made to it over the last 10 years or so. So I would recommend that the board would approve of this request from the Department of Transportation as well.
Very good, and real quick, we do have is this a courthouse tour, or?
Yes, so Chamber of Commerce is having a leadership tour. We're
Okay.
going to every office in the courthouse, kind of explaining what the department does and answer questions. So Doug Miller, our county engineer, is doing some road project updates for the board so they can approve or not approve that. Do you guys wanna give a rundown of what you do? I already blamed you from the assessor's office.
Sure,
So you guys set the rates and they set the values, so.
Yeah, so the Board of Supervisors, in a simple way to say it, is the pocketbook of the fiscal agent of the county. And so we see all the money runs through the board here of different departments and oversee all the financial operations of the county in that way. We're also trustees of all the drainage districts in the county. So if you own farmland, and it has a county tile running through it for draining water, we would be trustees by default of those districts as well, and make decisions for them, improving, maintaining, etc. Each of us is on different committees that typically would dole out money from the state, whether that be for mental health, for judicial districts, for childcare, for whatever, conservation, etc. So, a lot of different aspects, and yeah, and each of us represent a certain district within Kossuth County based on population. We all have about, give or take, 3,000 people, so that we represent. Yep. I'm the southern third of the county, and I'm Carter Knapp is for the first district, so, yeah.
I'm Josh Wachter. I'm with the 3rd district, which is the east half of Algona.
Yep.
I'm Kyle Stecker, 4th district supervisor. My territory is basically the northern third, all townships in the top 3 rows except German Township.
Amber Garden, District 5. Some of the towns in my district would be City of Fenton, City of Lone Rock, City of Tatanka, City of Burt, I know that my district goes all the way up kind of near Buffalo Center,
And Howard Hawes and the second district, basically have the west half of Algona, a rough center line of Algona west out to the east side of the airport, and down to Orton Road and back to Algona.
On our property taxes, what percentage do you guys represent or manage?
Well, that would depend on where you live, but in the city,
A quarter of it.
probably, yeah, 20%, 20-25%.
Your, your school districts typically represent about 50% of property tax dollars.
Or
Plus or
higher.
minus depending on where you're at in the county.
Yep.
Perfect. Well, thank you for letting us interrupt. Doug, thank you for letting us interrupt.
Sure.
You guys have any questions?
Yeah,
I do. All right, we're gonna move along. Thank you guys.
Thanks for stopping in.
Enjoy.
Okay, yeah, back to, the detour here.
Right?
Yeah, except after that, it's like
I'll
detour.
make a motion to approve.
Alright, we have a motion by Stecker to approve,
I'll second.
second by Wactor. Any discussion on the motion to approve the US 18 detour agreement with the Iowa DOT? If not, all in favor, fine on this one? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Motion carries unanimous.
I would expect that, this came from District 3, which is in the western part of the state. I would expect that District 2, they have plans to do work on Highway 18, and there will be some detours with that as well on the east side of the county, so this will come up again.
Sounds good. Yep.
And that, you told us a week or two ago, that's supposed to happen this summer.
Yeah, well, my understanding of May, it's supposed to be let in May, constructed this summer. Yeah.
Assumptions are difficult, I know, but you assume that it'll be McGregor Road will be the,
Yeah, I've kind of visited with them, they've asked where our projects are, and making sure that we don't have construction on them, so yeah, we've had some conversations.
Okay, very good. Well, now we can move into discussion then.
Sure. I have been contacted by Summit Carbon Solutions. They're requesting information for drainage district easements, and they are requesting information for entrance permits, and I have sent that information to them. What is the board have a desire to approve those? The drainage district, the road department will take care of the entrance permits, or would you prefer to wait on that for some reason? I think a representative from Summit Carbon is coming next Tuesday. Are they on the agenda, Tammy?
The 20, yes, I believe so.
Okay. So, but I don't know what the status of anything is.
I haven't heard hardly
Yeah,
anything.
the 18th,
The
Okay,
18th?
yes,
so 2 weeks.
yes.
they're on the agenda for what then? Same thing?
An update, Summit
Just a
Carbon Solutions project
informational
update.
type.
Okay.
FEMA, we're still working on things with them. Got open positions in Laverne, which, getting ready to make an offer. Transfer station, we're advertising. The engineer's office, I'll be advertising for a position at the end of this week, and then we have openings at the mechanic shop as well. Last week, we talked a little bit about projects. And I did make a list. This would be paving, resurfacing projects, pavements, that are eligible for urban renewal. And you can see that we have some pavements that were last touched in 1999. So they are over 25 years old. These estimates of cost, if you look at page 3, from farm to market funds, in 2026, we're estimated to receive right around $2 million. Our estimated federal surface transportation funds in FY28 is approximately $600,000. Estimate cost for the construction, $83,000 per inch per mile, and that comes from last year's letting. And I did put 3 inches of pavement per project. We have in the past reduced that to 2 inches of pavement so that we could get more pavement out on those roads. Our current obligated balance in our farm to market account is a negative $4 million. We borrowed ahead on that. We gotta wait for some funds to pay that back until we can start borrowing again. And our current equity on the surface transportation through 2027 is at $36,000. So we are using those federal funds as well. I will be submitting another project for surface transportation funds. It'll be, I might submit 2 just to see if we can get them in there. But that would be in fiscal year 28 and fiscal year 29. But there's a list of the projects and then totaling them up for each year. And then the last page is a location map of those projects. Then I also just have this table of the structures that are eligible for the increment financing, the urban renewal funds. Same thing as really what was passed when the urban renewal work was all done, the amendment to the Buffalo Township. Kossuth County, we received approximately $670,000. We're projected to receive $670,000, $672,000 federal bridge replacement funds in fiscal year 2025. However, our current federal bridge replacement balance is at a negative $573,000. We do have limits on how much we can go ahead with that. I did talk with the grant coordinator of the Iowa County Engineers Association yesterday. I was informed that the bridges that we submitted for the competitive highway bridge fund were not included in their fund. They did not qualify. The amount of that grant is the same dollars, which I think is right around, it was right around $65 million. That funded in 2018, it funded 77 projects. It's the same dollar amount. This year, 18 projects is what it took to get that grant. Again, construction prices have gone up quite a bit in the last 5 to 7 years, making it challenging with everything. And then, just to put together an idea, trying to get an idea for, I want that one there, please. That's my copy, sorry. There we go. For our accomplishment year, for the program that I've put together right now, I have definitely There's a culvert replacement project, north of Lone Rock. We should have enough money in our local budget construction to, construct that. The Bancroft Forest City Road, for resurfacing STP A42, that's federally funded, so we'll get that constructed. Then I have, I'm gonna put both, I call it LFM R14, for the urban renewal, and the bridge, 781290, which is Michelson Marsh, for urban renewal. The 1.4 million dollars that are in the capital projects fund may or may not cover one or the other of those urban renewal, but I was going to put them both in there. If there was more funds available, we could definitely start getting the 3 projects that were last constructed in 1999, we could add them to the fiscal year 2026 awfully easy. And we could probably get some of those that are in the 2001. But given the circumstances, this is what I will be submitting for a program unless something changes.
Those for the TIF, where are they on here? Without, I mean, I could probably find it, but unless I don't have to search too hard.
Sure.
You talking a map, like location wise?
Well, no, I got the map. Are they listed on this?
A42 at the bottom of page 1, it was done in 2003.
Okay.
And then that R14 was done in 2002. Or excuse me. It was done in 2001.
Okay, R14.
It's the R14 between A42 and Highway 9. That is all that I have from the county engineer. I did visit a little bit with Luke Seberg, he's with Iowa State Extension, and he indicated that they had a little bit of delay in some funding, but now everything is getting reviewed for release, and at the beginning of the year was told to expect the go-ahead to share it within the next several weeks, so I would anticipate that community-centered solar development program pilot report will be available soon.
Very good. Anything else for Doug?
Doug, for these, projects, I know you got them prepared by the year. Do you have a comparison on the current quality of each road besides just the year?
I do. It's kind of a different database, but we have our pavement database that has that.
Can you correlate that with these, like in the same spreadsheet where you have the projects that are eligible for increment financing? Can we get the quality compared in there? Because I know there's a couple of these I would say are probably worse in quality and more desperate for need of attention rather than their age may represent.
Well, I think that's why we're constructing a couple that are
Right.
further down on the list first too.
Right, but if we're just talking about which of these projects are we going to do next, outside of what Doug's already put together for the, accomplishment year.
Well, I take that into consideration when I do the program. I look at our data that we have, and there are strategies that I incorporate to make some pavements. There are some maintenance things that can be done that will allow extra life to pavements. But that's what I do when I put the program together. I try to keep some things in some areas so that contractors would not have to run all over Kossuth County. But I do use that, and so but I'll certainly provide it. I got one year, they were programmed last year. So.
Yep, that would be good to see. Thank
But I guess the other thing is, if you look at the program, and I can certainly bring it to you, but you can see pretty much this year's work that was programmed, next year's work that is programmed, all the way through fiscal year, I think it was 29, so.
So when these estimated costs, I'm just talking the two that you have earmarked for the TIF. So if the estimated cost is, you know, like it says 1.7 million and 2.2 million, and we have 1.4 million, you know, available, how's the rest payment?
We wouldn't let it,
Okay,
until we had the financing put together.
okay.
The one on 842, you said that was, you were planning to use federal funds. So
That is
right?
programmed in the statewide transportation.
Okay, so it's on the urban renewal list, but it would be paid by federal funds.
Yes, it would.
Okay,
Yeah, that particular one is not
okay,
increment financing.
but it's on the list, okay.
But it is eligible, we did put it on, and there's other ways to, I certainly will be using federal bridge funds for structures, federal road funds for resurfacing, and farm to market funds for resurfacing as they are available. However, we've leveraged ahead on that as.
Okay, any other questions for Doug at this time? Okay,
Okay, very good.
alright, thank you.
Yes.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, we can go to discussion with the county auditor.
Or just we wanna go back to.
Oh, excuse me,
Animal
let's go back to the animal ordinance first, thanks Josh. If you look at your email, Todd did send the animal ordinance while we were in the meeting this morning. And then Roger also sent an email, expressing his approval and asking us to review that. So, everyone received that, or able to see it?
I've received it, yeah.
Okay,
Just getting through.
Okay. yeah.
Well, no, I still don't have anything,
857 AM.
still don't have it.
If you don't have it, it might not be,
Close and reopen your outlet.
no, he's got the ones I
that's a
sent.
porcine species,
Oh, what?
porcine.
Oh, they were sent here in that email.
Bovine cap.
I was gonna say, if,
Porcine.
That's why you don't have
No
them.
ostrich.
I don't think that'd do me a lot of good.
No.
Oh.
I just remembered seeing that was.
Are you just forwarding it
I'll
to them?
forward it, however.
Yeah,
Yeah. It did go to your,
yeah, I just remembered seeing that on there. I was like, oh, it's getting it sent to us.
Josh, you better make sure you control your emus in the backyard.
Emus listed
They
on
are listed in the ordinance.
yeah.
Emus and ostriches and
Well, I'll have to
Rias?
take that into consideration before I buy emus. I don't have any yet.
Anyone got any porcupines? That's also in here.
That'd be fun.
Cats are in here too. Imagine how many hundreds of cats are out there running around somewhere.
Well, the city does have problems with cats.
Yes.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, down by where my in-laws used to live by the pool, they have feral cats that live in those bushes, weeds and
Oh.
stuff down there, and my in-laws took the swing set out of their backyard because they were using that as a litter box.
Litter box.
Oh, sure, yeah. Hmm.
It's just not something that's ever gonna be under control.
No, yeah,
I mean,
no,
it's not.
no.
How are you gonna?
No,
I mean, I have some farm kitties running around, but you know what, if they cross the road, they
Yeah.
cross the road,
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
gonna sit
Yeah.
there and be like, I mean.
Remember that when you approved this.
I'm not gonna tag their ears.
I know.
Well, I think.
Howard's gonna file a complaint, they're coming over to his.
You can send them over to
This
Howard.
isn't the place for the story, but I was sitting down working on a piece of farm equipment and I sensed rather than felt something behind me, and it was a Saint Bernard about the size of a small shell. This is 10 years ago.
Oh, it was it mine?
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
mine.
Like, I'm later today, you're looking for it.
See, section 5 says animals at large are prohibited.
Yeah, remind me to take their collar off. I'm just kidding.
Not my dog.
I think the hard part about this and reading it, maybe I'm not reading it accurately, like, okay, we own cattle. They get out sometimes.
Yep.
It's not because they're not taken care of, maybe, you know, the deer, whatever, ran through the fence and the fence was down, so they got out.
Or a
It's
tree
not,
branch, or-
yeah, it's not because they're not taking care of it, just happens.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you, with the floods and stuff this summer, it happened more regularly just because it was very hard for the creek fence and things like
Yep.
that. I'm sorry, I don't think that we should have to pay a fine for that.
And it does have 2 prior warnings, but,
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna
Okay.
record that.
So like on our property north of Laverne, the fence is all washed out there in 2010, 2018, and would have last year had they still been there. So,
Yeah.
I mean, so what are you gonna use for
I wonder,
warnings?
I wonder if there could be a exception made for, and you'd probably have to define who would be able to offer that exception or approve that exception, but something in relation to something caused by Mother Nature, whether it was lightning hitting a tree or floods or whatever. I mean, yeah, I don't think the intent of this is to punish
Right.
people who are attempting to
No,
do
but
the
it
right
could,
thing.
no, but it could.
And somebody could push that if they don't like it.
Right.
I mean.
It could, and, you know, right now, like, I can only speak for our family, but we have a good relationship with the sheriff's office. They call, they have my number, they have Dave's number, they probably have Wyatt's number. They call us and we're there instantly, you know, if something happens,
Yeah.
whether that be in the middle of the night or when.
Yeah.
And, it's never intentional, it's not because, I mean, it just happens.
Maybe call Todd and see if he can come up and we
You
can
might wanna
talk
have
through some of that with him.
Roger here as well.
Well, yeah, both of them,
Yeah.
if they're available to come over.
Todd's 101, I think.
No, Doug's one.
Doug's one.
Oh, sorry.
Todd would be
Todd's like 140, isn't he, or 141?
141.
141, yeah.
I don't know why I remember that.
I
Knew
lose
there
that
was
in my head, but I didn't
2
wanna say it
ones in
wrong.
there.
Well, that's most laws, they're not there for people who are caring for things. They're there for the 1% of people that don't care.
And,
And
Right,
let
but is it a
But the
problem?
problem is sometimes
Well,
it
it
applies
is,
to
and-
those people who are
Correct, and that's the
There-
struggle.
there are
You know.
situations that have come up, especially recently, where
He did not answer.
it has been a problem and
Do you want me
we
to run
haven't
down,
had
see if he's
any
there?
Yeah, I'll call
ability to
Roger.
enforce it.
Yeah,
And
they may be
that's-
doing a
that's
tour
why
that
it
might
came
be
up.
Oh.
wise.
This thing.
I don't know, just.
Could be.
Hey Roger, it's Josh over here in the boardroom. So we are looking through the, animal ordinance here, we got some more time here, so, we just had a few questions on it, if you'd be able to come over and entertain those questions. Okay, sounds good, perfect, thanks. You'll be here in about 4 minutes. While we're waiting.
It was so funny.
Looks like a follow along. I know, well, in that, you know, the movie Cujo doesn't exactly give St. Bernard's a good reputation.
Remind me if I don't.
Okay, I'll send you.
Anyway, and I think I was telling that story to my wife later that day, and then she said, well, there was something on the radio about 2 dogs. So, well,
Yeah. We tried to, we have 3 dogs and 2 of them, they don't leave the place. One of them is naughty and takes the other one someplace, but, so we try to leave the one that's a little bit.
Yeah, the tour
Yeah, to run.
just went in his office.
Oh,
So he said he'd buzz up after they're done, which that shouldn't take too long. And we lost Josh. And Tammy, okay. That's it. But. Roger, good morning.
Good morning. Winter came back.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. They're doing a tour of the courthouse and they just stopped
Yeah,
in
they're
Todd's
coming over
office,
to
so,
across the street this afternoon.
okay, so. But I guess we can wait for Josh and Tammy to come back.
Good morning.
Okay.
Did you find Todd?
The tour just went in his office.
Okay.
So I did find him, he said he'd come up right after they're done.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Oh, you're waiting for Todd, you mean?
We were waiting for Todd.
Yeah. I see after you called me this morning, he got this back up to you,
Yeah.
or emailed out, so.
we can wait for Todd, or I can repeat when he gets here, but one of the things we were talking about was like the penalties, and it does have in there 2 prior warnings of, violations of this ordinance and stuff.
Correct.
I guess some of the scenarios we were talking about as a board here were the weather events that have happened, whether it's the flooding in rivers as far as cattle being in there, or say lightning strikes a tree and a fence is damaged and stuff gets out. I mean,
Deer blows through it.
how could we structure this in a way where it doesn't harm people that are trying to do the right thing consistently?
Sure.
And I don't know if we can have something that just popped in my head was, if we could have a, waiver or an exemption, if it's approved by the sheriff or something like that, I mean, I don't know if you or Todd have any thoughts on how to go about that so that normal, everyday citizens trying to do the right thing aren't
Oh,
attacked
absolutely,
for it.
yeah.
Well, one thing I would think of for that is like if there was like some sort of an appeal process, they, you know, if they got a citation for the animals being at large and then, you know, they're given the opportunity to make an appeal with evidence showing that their fence was damaged and stuff like that, that they could have that citation, you know, reversed, you know, if that's something that we could implement.
You hate to put them through that process.
Oh,
though.
Right,
I mean, you're
right.
gonna make a lot of
Yeah.
farmers really mad.
Yeah.
So what's the driving force behind this?
It's been the constant complaints we've had mostly about dogs in the unincorporated areas that we do not have an ordinance for. What spearheaded this was, gosh, it's probably been a couple of years ago now, or a year and a half.
Lots of great people.
We had incidents up at Lots Creek where two dogs were going over to the church and creating problems. And because Lots Creek is in the rural unincorporated area, we didn't have a county ordinance. Every city in Kossuth County has an animal at large ordinance, but it's within the city limits. We don't have anything for the rural unincorporated areas other than state laws. So what we're looking at is trying to implement some kind of an animal ordinance for those types of calls. Livestock calls we get all the time for cattle out, horses out. Not very often sheep, but once in a while. Again, that's why I said I like the fact that you give 2 warnings. It's just like any other ordinance, and perhaps Todd can give you the legal side of it, but it's basically at the discretion. I mean, if we're having bad weather, of course we're gonna use common sense discretion that trees knock down fences or whatever, but it's at the discretion of either the sheriff or the officer investigating it, but we just wanna have a tool that we get these repeat offenders. Right now, we've got a couple small towns where animals are coming in from the county, they're roaming around town free, getting in people's garbage, they go back to their acreage, you know, dogs can roam for quite a few miles. So it's just an issue where we wanna be able to crack down on some of the rural areas that are just allowing it, cause there's no penalties right now for it.
Are these penalties in line with what cities have right now, or do you have any idea?
Yes, it's always a simple misdemeanor, so then it's the discretion of the judge. If it comes to court, the judge can dismiss it, the judge can, set the fine in those ranges. I believe it was 105 to 855.
Yep.
That's the range that the judge can set. As a sheriff or deputies, we could use discretion if we want to give 2 warnings, 3 warnings. You know, again, if they're having trouble with the wind damage or tree falls down or something, we can obviously use that discretion. It's more so that we, I know 2 of you weren't on the board, but remember 3 years ago when we ended up seizing an entire herd of cattle. Part of it was animal abuse, but a big part of it was they were constantly running loose. There's no effort to make repairs to the fences, no efforts to maintain that type of responsibility. And quite honestly, as I said earlier, I would think farmers would support this because we're trying to help them keep away from the liability. Because if their animals are constantly running free, they're very high risk that they'd be held liable if it causes an accident or somebody runs into an animal at night, especially once a domesticated type of livestock or animal that is supposed to be contained and controlled. So, Todd could probably answer you more on the legal side of that, but I have no problem giving direction to our deputies that we use discretion, especially during inclement weather or, you know, some type of disaster like flooding and that kind of stuff, that we obviously would use discretion at that time.
I was telling him earlier, I had a couple of people contact me. One of it was about the voluntary list, you know, to provide phone numbers and everything.
Yes.
They were both concerned about that list wasn't made public.
Right.
And then one of them had a concern that would apply to this. He said, you know, I'll get a call that they think my cattle are out and I'll go respond and they're not my cattle.
Right.
And unless I go, this is not me talking, this is.
Sure.
Unless I go to the effort to
make sure they know they work my cattle, I get a strike on my, and I suppose the proper thing for him would be to call you back and just say, hey, it ended up not being mine, but those were the concerns that were brought up to me.
Sure, and that's why we're not, you'll notice there's nothing in here about registering with the sheriff. As you mentioned last time, some of the concerns about, you know, are we getting too much government control? I think we would just make that we basically put it out there as a voluntarily, if you wanna provide us with that information. The difficulty that we run into is not knowing if cattle can roam quite a few miles. We have no idea who they belong to. We don't know how to look at an ear tag, if there's a number on it, that doesn't tell us, you know, who they belong. Unfortunately, they don't wear dog tags or places with their address on them, so we have difficulty sometimes finding them. So what one of our dispatchers did years ago, this has probably been, oh gosh, 15, 20 years ago, he started creating a map where every time we got calls for livestock out, he pinged it on a map, located it through the GPS. I don't know if you guys are familiar with our mock system, but it's a system that all law enforcement has on their computers. And then if we got a call that cattle are out on, for example, 4502 80th Avenue, then that dispatcher could look on that map and see where there are owners of livestock in that area and start calling. Hey, you wanna check and see if your cattle are out? And that's a lengthy process, and you gotta hope and pray that somebody answers the phone. And there's been times where we've got cattle out overnight, 2, 3, 4 days. We put it on the radio. You know, I can remember most recently we had a group up by Taitaka that were out for 3 or 4 days. Farmers were helping, trying to locate it, trying to locate the owners. We're just trying to come up with better ways to be able to keep track of that and get back to the landowner so we can reduce that liability, so they aren't roaming around for 2, 3, 4 days. It's not a huge issue, but when it happens, it can be. It's another one of these ordinances that we wanna just be able to have, you know, we're not gonna go out and abuse it. We're not gonna go out and just chase down dogs and put them in the pound, try to collect fees. We're trying to do it to keep us from being dog catchers, because I'll be honest, when I became a deputy sheriff, I had no idea I was gonna be a dog catcher. And we get a lot of dog calls. Tammy can attest when she worked at the sheriff's office, we get dog calls almost daily. And we're just trying to come up with a way to, if you are gonna own a dog, be responsible enough to keep it contained to your property. If you're gonna allow it to run free, there's gonna be some consequences.
You'd be amazed how many people call and say they can't leave their house because there's a dog outside that won't let them out their door. I mean,
Yeah.
it happens more than you think.
Delivery people call us, I can't deliver this package.
Yeah.
And those are issues that are on private property that we can't control, but, it's more so, if you look around the county, you've got St. Joe, Sexton, Irvington, you know, these are all unincorporated areas that have no ordinances. And it's not like we have a normal, everyday occurrence there, but it comes, you know, Lots Creek, we got it nonstop there for quite a while. We finally removed one of the dogs that we deemed it to be a little bit vicious. Most recently, we had 2 dogs running stray that killed some sheep and chickens, so. We can follow state laws on that part of it, but we don't have a local ordinance to help control that nuisance that they're constantly being allowed to run free. And the cattle part of it, all the years I've been here, we've never issued citations for it. We've always tried to help the landowner to get the livestock back in. But what's frustrating is when you have repeat offenders. I mean, at some point, you gotta be responsible to maintain your fencing and the requirements of keeping in there.
Well, that's kind of I mean, we have cattle out. We're not, and yeah, I guess we would be repeat offenders because it does happen, but it isn't because we don't take care of our fence.
Correct. Have you ever been cited?
Well, no, but this says that you can be.
After 2 warnings, you could be, but obviously we're gonna use discretion on it. If there's an issue with weather or flooding or winds or something like that, we'll always use discretion, but. I mean, it's your guys' decision. I mean, we'll keep handling it like we do now. I guess, one of the options that I can do as sheriff is we'll just follow it under state laws, but, right now, we don't have a county ordinance for unincorporated areas. The cities have it, but we don't have it in the rural areas.
in general, I don't have a problem with this for the most part, I just think if we can, and some of that'll probably fall on Todd as far as legal guidance, but I think if we can maybe give a avenue or a couple avenues to avoid penalties for those individuals that are actively trying to do what they can.
Well, you know, here's.
It would clarify your discretion piece of it a little bit,
Right.
maybe.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, because it does happen.
Yep, it does.
It does happen. I mean, we had an instance one time where we had younger calves in our lot and they were secured. They were secured, most of it was by bridge rail, but the gate, they were secured by a gate and something must have spooked them and that, they broke through that gate. Something must have spooked them in the night. We got a call and said our cattle were down at Dollar General. Well, I mean, that wasn't a great phone call to get, but then when we looked, they had broke through the gate, the post was broke, whatever happened. I mean, there's things that happen.
Yep.
And it isn't because you're not taking care of your fence or your livestock or, and that would be the part that I guess, I grew up on a farm, I know every instance that can happen with cattle getting out or whatever. And, it's never been because nothing was, you know, things weren't being taken care of. That's the part that I'm trying to just express a little bit of concern for because I live it.
Yep, and I'd agree with that, I mean, I'm well aware of all those situations, but having a middle ground between protecting the people that are trying to do the right thing, but still giving our law enforcement officers a tool to use for those that aren't obviously taking the proactive
Right.
measures on their own to address situations that come up. And Moss Creek's a prime example, that's what really spurred this conversation, but when you have people that are afraid to get out of their car when they go to church because a dog's gonna bite them,
Yeah, I know.
we have to,
Yeah.
Well,
we have to
and
give
dogs are different.
something to do
Well,
about
like
that.
Roger's saying, you get daily calls for dogs. Cattle happens now and then, but it's nothing like, I mean, the dogs, I think, is the main driving force of
Yeah,
the animal
absolutely.
ordinance. If anything makes you not want a dog, go campaign for a while, you know, it just.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
But,
And that's the driving force behind this is the dog ordinance, but everybody I talk to and maybe talk and speak differently, but they're, you know, you wanna create this general blanket of an animal ordinance so that if you do have other issues, you can look at it at that point. But in the 38 years I've been here, we've always worked with livestock owners, try to get them back contained. We realize that animals break fences, weather conditions can happen. And we've always tried to work with it, but on my side of the fence, it's very frustrating when we can't locate the owner, or it continues to be an issue where, okay, there was no wind damage or floods, you're just not fixing the fence. You know, at some point, you gotta take that responsibility.
Yeah.
well,
We wanna try to call
What is the normal process now? Do you read this a few times?
We have to
Yeah,
publish
no.
it first.
Publish it,
Publish
3
it first.
readings.
Publish it, yeah. I know the Farm Bureau already called me. You guys, I don't know if you guys are going to the meeting tonight?
Yeah.
They called me yesterday, wanted to know about this, and I didn't have it yesterday, but now we do, so I'll bring it tonight in case they have any questions, but obviously this is just a draft. If there's any changes we're gonna make, that can be discussed, but, one of their members called and wanted similar questions to what you had about how it'd be enforced and stuff, so.
yeah, well,
Do we wanna try calling down to Todd's office and see if he's?
he said he was gonna come right up after the tour was done, but they must be taking a little longer. So. If it's not something we wanna act on today, you can visit with the Farm Bureau and anybody else now that we have the ordinance and what their thoughts are and.
Well, yeah, because I mean, we did just get it this morning.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
We don't have to act on it.
Right.
Today by any means, but it's not.
But at
gonna be
least
to
we
talk
have
about.
one.
Yep, you got a template for working from now, so. We can postpone this another week. And look to act on it next week if.
Fine fine by me, I don't think it's that complicated of a topic to
No,
kick down the road forever. We do it or we don't, or we change a couple things, or we leave it as is, or whatever, but I don't think we need 2 or 3 weeks to
no, we
get up to
just, but we
speed.
just got an hour or two ago, so
Yeah,
digest it and we'll come back next Tuesday and vote on it and.
Well, you can't vote on approving it,
It would
you
be-
have
Or
to set
vote on-
date and
but-
time for the
Yeah.
That's what
public
I-
Starting the
hearing and-
process.
yeah.
Setting the date and time, there you go. That was wrong wording,
That's okay.
so. Vote on to proceed with the process, how about that?
Yeah,
Okay, well, thanks Roger, and
Okay,
yeah,
no problem.
we'll let you know if we got any other questions.
Sounds good, thank you.
Have a good day. Okay. Well, let's, go ahead with auditor discussion.
Okay. Reminder tonight, Farm Bureau meeting at 6 o'clock at the Farm Bureau office.
And E911,
And
At
E911 at
6
6 o'clock, yeah.
Who's got, you got that?
I got E911.
What happens there?
We just, tonight, we're gonna be discussing the budget, and I don't remember if it's the public hearing tonight, I don't think it is, but that's gonna be primary discussion, but, E911 basically just oversees the, use of funds from the E911, that come in from the state to, whether it's, dealing with purchasing equipment for the dispatch or purchasing equipment for the patrol vehicles, things like that. There's been talk about radio towers, things like that. They also handle the ISIX radios that kind of go through, so all the schools around here have radios that are all linked to the state, so that way they have ways of communicating in disaster times or emergencies and things like that. E911 handles that. They also handle the road signs, throughout the county, the
E911 signs.
The address.
Yeah.
Address.
well, and they do work with, road signs in the cities as well. So like the street signs,
no,
Oh.
that's right away.
they,
They do house numbers. And
I think they've worked with that before.
I mean, they might coordinate, but they're not installing those if it's a sign in the county or state right of way.
No,
those are
no,
installed by
the city installs them, but they are providing the signs, so like I'm pretty sure that's,
I don't think so.
Either way,
yeah. So,
So who, you're our representative, obviously, but
Yep.
who else serves on that committee?
I think, Amber, you're
I'm the
the,
alternate.
No,
but-
Fire chiefs. from
oh,
each
fire
city.
chiefs, yeah,
From every jurisdiction?
Yeah.
and the mayors, aren't they on that?
no,
No,
that's,
they're not on
that's
E911?
EMA.
Oh,
That's the
okay.
mayor's, yeah.
Okay.
When it comes time to voting, they each have a vote?
Yeah,
Yes.
I was gonna ask that too, so
Yep.
each fire chief or each
Yeah,
has a vote?
Yep.
And you
and I
have
have
one vote
one vote for board, yep,
for the board?
yep.
Good to know, thanks.
The biggest part of that discussion is the dispatch, and Derek talked about it previously with the tough books for the police and sheriff, offices, so that's a hefty majority of that budget.
So why do we put this on our agenda when obviously we're not all going to attend? I'm just asking why. What,
So we got, don't wanna say in trouble, but, we've gotten reported before to Iowa Public Information Bureau for, board members, more than 3 showing up for a meeting, even
More than
if-
2.
Yeah, more than 2, even if they weren't voting or just attending. So we kind of made I wouldn't say a policy, but Todd and the IB said that we should put it, if there's a chance of 1 or more attending a meeting, it should be on the agenda.
Okay, so like tonight at 5, I was gonna go to the advisory meeting, should that have been on the agenda then? I mean, that would be,
And we talked,
all of us could have attended if we wanted to.
right, and we talked about that last week, it could have been,
Yeah, I just have to know about it
And
and
you
then
could
I
put
can
all
put
the
it on,
committees
yeah.
on there,
Well, I know, but it just seems silly.
right,
I mean, I understand, okay, we got turned in and we wanna avoid that, but it does seem a little bit silly, especially if it's okay for us to be there if we're not deliberating.
Yeah, it was just something
I
at
mean,
that time that
it's
Todd
just,
and the IPIB just said, just put
added
it on.
protection.
it's a little extra information, it doesn't really hurt anything.
Well, I'm not saying it hurts anything, I'm just saying, you know, if we're not deliberating, we can be at the same place.
mm-hmm,
Go to all these things as a private citizen anyway, can't you?
Correct, they're all public meetings, and they're all advertised in their respective natures, I mean, like E911, well, Farm Bureau wouldn't have a public notice per se, I don't think. They might to their members, but E911 has their own public agenda that's posted, EMS has that agenda that's posted publicly, they're all public meetings, so, yeah, I mean, same structure.
So like for tonight, for the Farm Bureau meeting, I know Howard and I are going, Carter, I know Josh, you're not obviously. Are you going, like, will there be 3 of us there? So if we're asked questions, that's fine to just answer the questions, like we're not,
So since it's listed on our agenda,
right.
it's publicly noticed,
okay,
so, yeah.
The biggest difference being
Not
that you're
voting.
not voting on making
Right.
decisions while
Right.
you're there, you're sharing information with
Okay.
the Farm Bureau.
okay,
And it is publicly noticed,
Yeah.
so
Yep.
we could all 5 be there and there's no issue,
Yep.
anyone in the public has the ability to know that we are attending a meeting with Farm Bureau.
okay.
You can continue.
Okay, so, besides those 2 meetings, next week, you have, discussion decision DD 129 and Minnesota Drain 41 lateral 162 update and discussing the next steps.
Just wondering when that would come, yeah.
Yep, and then, server replacement, from Derek, and the West Bend Public Library is gonna give some highlights.
Okay.
And then just the regular other stuff, the next week on the 18th, solar ordinance workshop. And then evaluation of the county engineer on the 25th.
Okay.
And I did get, just got some of my mail open, not all of it, but Healthy Harvest of North Iowa did send you a thank you note. And that's all I have.
So then for the evaluation, we just use that form that was emailed to us?
You can,
Is that what you
I
guys
think
usually do?
that's been used in the past.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I got.
Okay, Howard, anything to,
Went to-
Sure.
Went to an ISAC meeting last Thursday,
mm-hmm,
that's correct, last Thursday. It's interesting, they had, the head of HHA, HHA, I don't know.
HHS.
HHS talk, sound like the same story, 15th verse, to me, it's always, they just kick somebody else on new districts forming and different things, that I don't know enough to comment on it. It just seems like I've only been here a month, what you've read in the past is that they're disbanding this agency, creating this agency, and
yep,
the head of the ISAC, the guy from Washington County, he evidently, he felt that the members in general are beating up on these government officials and there's no future in that, so, anyway, that's the only thing I had.
I had the emergency management meeting, and I do wanna discuss a couple things about that. And this would probably be ask you, Josh, so their allocation that the county gives to them, that part of the piece of the budget was approved prior to that budget meeting, right? Going to a different way of funding?
Yes.
Okay, so I didn't understand that there was, controversy over that. Did any of you understand there was controversy over that prior to the meeting? Because I wasn't informed of it.
There wasn't a whole lot of public input on any of that, so, it wasn't really made known until, that there was any controversy until that night. Just, yeah, so, I mean, there was talk that was had during the meeting when we, when it was discussed to move to that, where the county allocation is, you know, basically taken away from the city allocations, and instead of having them do the reimbursements and stuff like that, and that's what, I think there was maybe some confusion there, but yeah, I mean, it got approved at that time, and like I said, there was no public really there to, you know, any discussion on it for, as far as controversy.
Okay, alright, well, that's good to know. I was kinda disappointed at some of the comments after the meeting, and so I wanted to know why was nothing, communicated with me as being a new member on the board, that there could have been issues. All I wanna know, I
Yeah.
wouldn't,
As far as I was aware, there was no foreseen issues, there was no, you know, no one really reached out with any concerns on it until that night that they were brought up, so.
okay, and then am I correct in saying, I mean, at the new officer training, we went over commissions and boards that approve their budget, and that's their budget, and we don't really have that say or that power, that's why we have a representative on that board. So why would I vote no on a budget that's been approved prior to me, that went through the publication phase and everything like that? I mean, why would I do that? That would be like saying, okay, you guys worked for nothing. Sorry, you approved it, but I'm gonna vote no, and I don't know why, but here you go. When it is work done prior to, and it comes to that meeting, that's kind of just the last piece, and yes, public get to talk and say, you know, I get that, and that's all good, it's fine. But I thought that I was doing a good thing by approving the previous work of all the commission members to get to those numbers.
And there was, you know, discussion that was had about that budget and stuff, and I will say I'm fairly positive there were some no votes on it prior to the public hearing.
Okay.
But as, you know, as it's voted on as a majority, it passed and
Right.
thus, again, passed after the public hearing, so.
Right.
That's, I mean, that's just the normal, how things flow, so it wasn't really.
Okay, alright, well, I just
Were you getting some
wanted a
negative
little-
feedback?
Yeah, and that's okay, it's alright for people to have negative feedback, I don't have an issue with that. What I have an issue with is hearing maybe, and it's hearing, that maybe some of this board had an issue with it prior to, that I knew nothing about. I guess that bothers me because, nobody spoke to me about that, and we had plenty of opportunity. So that's what I'm trying to communicate, that as a whole, I think that if we have issues with anything going on that any of us sit on, we should communicate that to each other and not to other people, and then shed ill light on the people that we're supposed to be, sitting here with at this table. So that's what I wanted to say about that. Okay, so then a couple of other things. I already asked about the meetings on the agenda. I was asked if I was receiving any of the emails from FEMA with drainage updates. And maybe I'm not on that list because I haven't received anything from FEMA, and maybe they haven't sent anything recently.
I don't know if there's anything in her district for FEMA, is there?
But
I don't
is
know
there-
if there is anything in your district for FEMA, but we can check, we can definitely check and see.
Okay,
I think there was just the one potential place that Roger had considered or talked with Reitzels about and whatever, and I don't think that ever got put in.
No, I thought they decided that it would be,
So I think the only sites, I've got 4 sites for FEMA damages in my district, but I don't think anybody else had any.
Yeah, and I didn't have any from the 2024, presidential disaster declaration, but I do still have stuff in the works
Mhm.
from 19, and the only email I've received recently was, Monday morning, and that was kind of a follow-up of a number of communications that we are still waiting for a response from Region 7. So, I mean, we've been asking for that for 2 months. We knew Homeland Security knew in December of 24 that that FEMA was going to be sending a response to the last information request they had sent, but we have continuously been waiting for that paperwork, so I mean, we really can't do anything until we even see what they put in paper, so.
Alright, so typically any updates from FEMA only go to the supervisor that had projects in that area, they don't notify the entire board?
correct.
Yeah, and Marge is on all those emails, and Leon, our consultant, is on them, so they're handled primarily in that order.
And Leon he works for FEMA?
No,
No.
he works for Veenstra and Kim, it's an engineering firm down in Des Moines, he is a consultant for them, and he was previously at the Iowa Department of Homeland Security, managing these projects on behalf of the state with us, and he left the state to go to, this private engineering firm, and has helped applicants like Kossuth, and he's handled or consulted on most of the, like, other counties, say Clay County, Woodbury, I don't even know the whole list of all the ones he's working with, but he's kind of acting as a intermediary, helping make sure the paperwork gets done properly and working through that process, which hindsight being 2020, it would have been nice if we would have had someone like him on the front end of the issues in 18 and 19, because some of the situations we're running into now are, okay, maybe the things weren't organized the best, or we didn't have all the paperwork in the format that FEMA likes to see them in, so now getting through the closeout processes and getting everything to the format that they want is difficult, but they said from the beginning, you just need your, I don't know, your foundational site inspection, all that, and then you can do the work and the paperwork can take care of itself on the back end, and that's what we were told from everybody involved. And I'd say for the most part, it's worked out pretty good, but we're just not done with it, so it's an ongoing process, and it's taken a lot of time.
Okay. Well, that's all I have.
Okay. Kyle, you got anything?
Yeah, I also went to the statewide supervisors meeting, one of the things we talked about was the legislative process. They did share that over 1,400 bills have been filed at this point in the session, and typically that average is around 1,000, and that has kind of steadily climbed, so we are inundated with bills. So, talked about some of the ways to try and communicate with legislators in a positive manner, to share our local stories and give them information that helps educate and kind of support our side of the story. There were a couple legislators there, Dan Dawson and Janice Weimer were on a legislative leadership panel. Talked about, and HHS Director Kelly Garcia, was there. She talked about House File 2673, and if I remember right, she said that's kind of I don't remember if that was the one from last year or if that was this year, as a cleanup bill, following up all that. But one of the things that was brought up as a concern is, as Carter, you're probably fairly well aware, but all these services are supposed to transition at the end of June to be effective July 1, and the state has not even contracted or obligated funds for the new provider to start hiring staff or any of that sort of stuff. They are in the assessment phase of that. So they've got less than 4 months to flip a switch on a system that covers mental health for the entire state of Iowa, and maybe they will hit it. I hope for everybody's sake that they do, but there's a lot of concern about that. There's also concern about how the current regions operate and function and kind of clear up old business after the fiscal year is over, because as we all know, you won't have all the bills in come June 30th. So whether it's July, August, September, when those bills are rolling in, the current regions won't have any staff to help handle that. So how do you work through that administrative process? And Kelly Garcia did say that the ASO that the state contracts with is supposed to help manage all that, which.
But there's no plan.
Yeah, and that's where it cycles back to there's really nothing in stone at this point in time. So hopefully, some things can be sorted out with all that, but.
How you doing?
Hey Todd,
How goes it?
we're still discussing, no, we're not still discussing the ordinance.
Well, I got a little wordy down there.
Must have been.
Oh, lawyers. We always have something to talk about. So what's
Well,
up?
just as a, yeah, we'll
Go ahead.
briefly fill you in on, Roger was in here, we visited a little bit, but, concerns regarding the fees and the 2 warnings before you'd be given a, or written up for it. For people that are responsible with their cattle or other livestock and do take care of their operations and fencing and everything. In the event you have flooding, tree falling down, deers blowing through fences, and whatever the instance is, and cattle get out, those people aren't irresponsible.
Right.
It's just things happen.
Right.
And so how do you protect people that are responsible from getting punished along with the people who actually need the ordinance? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think looking at it from the standpoint of discretion, the law enforcement officers who are called should be able to distinguish between, this is someone who, due to an act of God or whatever, his or her cattle or horses or whatever got out. I think also looking at it from the standpoint of restricting it to 2 prior warnings, prior to any type of potential fine, because you still gotta prove the case, right? I mean, they can challenge it and we can go to court and prove the violation of the ordinance. I think that would, to me, offer enough protection for those who are not frequent flyers. I think looking at it also from the standpoint of history, I think that there are people who own livestock who don't necessarily provide them with adequate nutrition, whatever it may be. Because from my experience, growing up around cattle, I mean, you don't necessarily have
you have to have a top of the line fence if the side of the fence that the livestock is on has grass, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's the ones that are, you know, you have down to 1/4 of an inch grass, and over on the other side of the fence is a lush green pasture, those cows are going to go, right? Even, you know, electric fence or not, or, you know, barbed wire,
They
which
find a
most
way.
of them barbed wire, they're gonna go, you know, because they're hungry. They're gonna proceed to find the place where the food source is. So, you know, I think that that provides at least some protection. The reality is that, you know, if it's say flooding, deer runs through the fence, those types of things, you know, that cause that, I would think that remedy would be probably not enforced in those situations. But according to my discussion with Roger, with the sheriff, you know, there are people that just perpetually have livestock out, which is a danger to people driving down the road. You know, I think that's what our goal is, you know, for the health, safety, and welfare, to keep those animals off the roadway. Because, you know, we're all familiar with hitting deer, I mean, but you hit a cow, it's a little bit more,
different, yeah.
a little bit more substance there, you know, and it's not, it could be, you know, it could be potential, it could be a tragic situation. So that's my input, you know, and I looked at it from the standpoint also is we have a state law in effect that deals with, you know, stray dogs, stray livestock, those types of things. And so this is in addition to, it's not supplanting that, which we couldn't do. And so looking at it from that standpoint, I did put in, at his request, language regarding impoundment, but then for dogs, okay? But that also is in the state law, so it's pretty much word for word from the state law, just to provide that, because it'll be published before it can be actually enacted. Just to let people know that that's a possibility. We had a situation with a dog being impounded earlier last year, so.
Well, and the warnings, if they feel the need to issue warnings, the 2 warnings, it's 2 warnings over 5 years, 2 warnings that year, like, I just go.
It's
Yeah,
not
time
specified,
frame.
yeah, it's not specified, good point.
Because like last year, we had big problems with the cattle at the Black Cat. I mean, we would get them in, we'd put the fence in with the high waters. It was just, we had major issues, and I'm telling you, Dave was fixed fence more than any other year. And we were called several times, and in fact, what we were called, fixed the fence, went home, 2 hours later, we were called again, and, it just happened, so there you go. I mean, I'm not saying that we don't take care of our fence, but to me, having cattle, having known all these issues that can happen, there's 2 warnings, if somebody decides to give you a warning.
Yeah,
I mean, cattle get out, horses get out, it does happen.
Yeah, and it doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, a situation where the fence is down. I mean, you know, the reality is you forget to latch a gate.
Yeah.
And, you know, the cattle can get out. I mean, that happens, we're all human. So, yeah, I don't know, you know, whether, it probably would be wise to set a time frame on there. I mean, I live on Plum Creek, so, when that flooding happened last year, I no longer have a fence to the north, you know, or at least the northeast part of mine is gone. And that was a pretty healthy sized fence. It was an elk fence, so I mean, it had, you know, it was pretty tough, gone. So, you know, the reality is, yeah, those things are, you know, they'll happen, and, you know, shouldn't be, this ordinance or law shouldn't be used in a way or even enforced in a way that, you know, those aren't taken into consideration.
Right.
And, you know, like Dave and most of the livestock owners in Kossuth County, you know, they take care to make sure that their fence is up and all of that stuff. You know, and are good at what they do. And so I don't see that but even those individuals are gonna have the occasional time when their livestock get out. I mean, that's one of the things with livestock ownership that happens. So I don't think or at least my goal is to draft something that, you know, those are not going to be a problem. You know, that's not gonna cause there to be, you know, someone who is a really good, you know, livestock owner and make sure that their livestock are taken care of, that they wouldn't potentially be subject to this ordinance. It's the ones that are the habitual violators, you know, and we had one not too long ago that, you know, I don't hear about it until Roger brings it to my attention, but apparently, you know, it's just a consistent issue. So I don't know. I mean, that's a good point, but a very good point.
Would there be any possibility or legal issue with having a waiver or a kind of discretion that would be built into the ordinance that says, okay, the sheriff could waive a warning or could waive a penalty if it's deemed, say it's a act of Mother Nature or something like that? And
well, I don't know that we necessarily need to put that in there, because, you know, the reality is that it's always discretionary. I mean, even the criminal code that we have, I mean, it's discretionary as to whether or not to charge the offense when it's presented, depending on the facts and circumstances, right? So, you know, if it's a situation where, you know, the law enforcement officer, you know, feels that, you know, this was, not something that would require a warning due to the circumstances, then he or she wouldn't issue the warning. I don't know that we necessarily have to put that in there, although we could draft it in a way that if there is a warning issued and it's later determined that, or at least build into it, you know, some sort of a protection, ultimately because it would be for the court. Because usually how that works, regardless of the situation, whether it's a violation of the criminal code or say a violation of the ordinance, you know, so you have initial discretion at the law enforcement officer's at that stage, whether or not to charge or warn in this situation. And then that goes to my office, and then I do an independent, or Stephanie does an independent review of the case to determine whether it should proceed further. So there's two checks and balances there. And then after that, if it does go forward, then we have a situation where the judge would make the ultimate call, you know. So I would think that it would be very difficult to get past my office independent review in a situation where it isn't a situation that's grossly
habitual
offender, yeah.
Okay.
But with that being said, you know, you're gonna create a law or legislate an ordinance in Kossuth County. And so, you know, that'll go in a lot longer than I'll be around, so.
So could we build anything into that
I don't know,
defines
I'd have to think about that. Define, like a definition of habitual?
Yeah.
Well, that would, I mean, and the time frame on the two prior warnings would be helpful, but yeah, a definition of habitual, or even specifically designate whether it's a sheriff and county attorney may grant a waiver if it's.
Yeah, cause I could see it being egregious if you have one warning in 2024. And then you have another warning in 2034 being the second warning, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And both of them come on the heels
Yeah.
of a flood.
Right.
I'm not predicting 2034 we're gonna have a flood.
Right.
Yeah.
Now that we do, we're gonna come back to you.
Yeah. Trust me, it's not gonna happen because I can't predict that winning lottery ticket. Yeah, so it's, you know, it's a situation where I think it would be a good idea to limit that, you know, to, you know, 2 somewhat consecutive warnings within a time frame of so long, a year, I don't know. And then maybe define or some sort of definition regarding habitual. And limit it to, you know, that being the one that actually gets to be charged or actually is charged.
Yep.
I could see that being something.
Just to protect those individuals that are trying to do the right thing.
Right.
And for lack of better words, shit happens and.
Right. No,
Whether
that's
it's a gate
true.
that's left open or lightning
I won't put
strikes
that in the
across
ordinance,
street.
but,
It's the last
I
thing
mean,
anybody wants is for
yeah.
their critters to be on the highway
no,
or something.
no,
I mean,
because that's a
you know,
valuable
it's-
piece of property that
Right.
each person owns,
Right.
or that the livestock owner has, that if it gets hit by a car, I mean, it's done. I mean, you've lost, you know, a valuable piece of property.
Especially right now with the price of cattle.
Yeah, that's not
Yeah.
a trip to McDonald's anymore.
What's the state law that's already out there?
Well, it deals with, dogs at large, you know, and the other aspect of the state law regarding livestock is it's, I believe, it is, basically specific liability for the person who owns it if, you know, their livestock causes damage outside of their property.
You obviously see this as being more, has more teeth in it, does more for Roger, or?
I can say that in my conversation with Roger, I think it provides him more avenues to help stop this. You know, and to be honest, I don't know. I know in talking to him that it's a situation where there are a few dealing with livestock, but more dealing with dogs. Yeah. You know, I think that there's, you know, less than a handful of livestock owners that he would think would be considered habitual violators of their livestock being out. But apparently the dog issue is the issue that I think he wants addressed, for, you know, the reasons that there's more of that issue in his office. So I can redraft and send it back and see what you think, see if I can come up with some language, that would help. And then hopefully move this towards a final form.
Yep.
And have you guys let me know.
Sounds good.
Do you have any idea on timeline for that? If we have it on next week's agenda, is that fine, or do you need?
I will not be here next week, so if you go the following Tuesday, I'll be here,
Okay.
if that's okay.
We can move that to the 18th then. Okay.
Thank you.
Perfect,
Thanks, Todd.
all right,
Have a good day.
you too.
Kyle, anything to finish for your board report?
Yeah, it's more notes in here. Yeah, when we were talking about, the legislative stuff, there's a couple bills to note for emergency management. It's Senate File 26. For eminent domain, there's a couple things that have been proposed. SF 92, SF 136, and SF 74, and then House Study Bill 67 were all discussed. There's several, proposals in regards to eminent domain. One of them specifically with the CO2 pipeline. One of them is specifically banning a CO2 pipeline from having the right for eminent domain. The others have, various restrictions and stuff. I don't remember which was which, we talked through quite a bit of those. Medicaid funding, House File 13, a big piece of that is annual updates, so they would be reviewing the costs and adjusting them every year, which has not been done for decades, I think, so that would be substantial, one for hospitals, all that type of stuff, but also for like EMS and those other healthcare providers that are being reimbursed substantially below the cost of providing that service. And then the other one I had wrote down was Senate File 3 in regards to Iowa natural resources and water quality and quantity. I think that's it, so, and then, yeah, EMS meeting tonight, 5, was discussed last week and previously. I think that's all I got.
Okay. Josh? I had no meetings, just attended the EMA budget hearing, that was, same on it.
Very good. Yeah, I also attended the EMA budget hearing. And on that note, not regarding that, but also with EMA, Carissa had reached out to me. We're needing to do a continuity of government operations day. It's been needing to be done for a couple of years, and we should do that sometime in the future. It would require closing the courthouse for a day and having safety training for all the employees throughout that day.
We do have safety training once every year that the safety committee does.
Yeah.
Where we.
This was something on top of that as part of a plan that she wanted me to bring that up to the board and see what everyone's thoughts were. It's something that has to be completed within a couple of years. And she said if we want her to come in and talk more about it, she could certainly do that. So, just throwing it out there so you're aware.
You said close the courthouse for a day?
Cause it would require an all-day event. It's an 8-hour deal or, yeah.
Yeah, I think we'd probably need maybe her to come in and talk to us about that.
Right,
Yeah.
but,
You'd have to be real careful if you did that, what time of year you did that in,
Yeah.
because of, you know.
Cause we do, the one that they do Columbus Day, right? Cause usually we're open Columbus Day.
oh, okay,
And so
Yeah.
that's what they have set for next year, I think.
for
is
safety,
To do,
yeah.
And that's through our safety committee too?
Yes, yes.
Okay. When is Columbus Day? That's in,
October,
Like the 11th?
yeah.
in October?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
It says on there the 13th.
Oh,
oh,
yeah, the 13th, this,
So
This
it's probably
year.
always the first Monday or the second
Second
Monday
Second Monday.
of October. It's always a Monday.
yeah.
yep, so, well, yeah, I can have her come in and talk to the board about that, but,
Yeah, I
yep.
think we need more info.
Yep, so, just making you aware of that to begin with here, and, I did have a Care Connections meeting last Tuesday afternoon. Kyle touched on a couple things, with that. As far as reports, we had a report from Irely Ball, there was 8 dispatches in Kossuth County. 6 of them were one individual with some depression issues, and the average response time was 50 minutes. Season Center over in Spencer, their crisis stabilization center opened last Tuesday, the 28th at 8 AM in Spencer, so they've been working on that for a long time, and with all the flooding over there, that delayed that whole project, and so they're finally up and running. Our fund balance at the end of January was $1,012,343.11. We're hoping to end with a fund balance of $398,446. And I've got a sheet here with how that's gonna be broken down throughout the rest of the year. And so we had discussion on the assets of the region, how to transition with that, what to do with them. We don't have a lot of assets, but we do have a Chevy Blazer that we bought last year, for the region to use, and that's a 2023 Chevy Blazer, and so we're gonna be posting that for sale, or getting bids on that, and then, the funds will be dispersed evenly amongst the 6 counties in the region, and we'll just go into auditors, or the auditor will put it in the general fund. So, we're expecting to sell it for 21,000-ish.
What happens with the fund balance that's left over?
It goes back to the state.
So how does the vehicle come to the counties?
The vehicle is an asset of the region. So the vehicle, the computer, the computers, the furniture, all that kind of stuff, that the region decides what to do with that. The state hasn't decided. This is the thing, the state has not decided what they wanna do with the region's assets. So all the regions are getting rid of them and dispersing them back to the counties before the state can come and get the money. That's really what's going on.
Have they been given guidance to do that? Because
They haven't been given guidance for anything.
No.
okay, well, and I didn't touch on it earlier, but one of the comments Kelly Garcia made is to kind of go back home and caution that, to look at the final expenditures and the things that are being done to close out the books on the current system and make sure that things are being done properly, because they are aware of things that the gist of what she was saying was she thinks there's some questionable expenditures of money happening right now across the state.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
And she didn't single out any one region or another.
Well, this is just selling an asset.
Right,
Yeah.
but I'm
But
just
you could
asking,
quick go spend $1 billion on assets and that would be questionable.
well, most likely,
I don't know what other regions are doing. I mean, there's nothing.
yeah, and I don't
We hardly have
know
anything
either.
for assets even to sell. I mean, that was just the major one, so,
Okay,
but,
I was just curious of that, and yeah, I was.
yeah, the state has, and we've asked, and Melissa has repeatedly asked for different things and just getting no answers yet, and maybe find out next month, maybe find out the month after. We don't know what the state's gonna do, so.
Okay.
Kossuth County, I think Kossuth and Winnebago, our, unemployment is self-paid. And so there's no way to project cost budget-wise as far as how long are those people gonna be employed for 2 weeks or 2 months or,
Yeah,
and so it depends how long they're unemployed, so there's no answers for that yet either.
that was another thing that
Yep.
was discussed.
And then, for as far as the region or the new districts go, it's been proposed, the state is planning to have all of the directors of the districts be in Des Moines, out of the Des Moines office. And,
What did it show?
and there'll be 14 or 15 counties in each district, is what it amounts to, and all those directors will be in Des Moines,
That's that map they had up.
probably.
Yeah.
Ours will be District 2, and that will cover about 180,000 people. Each district, each district is gonna have a team of 6 people, 2 district liaisons, 1 training person, 1 data analytics person, and 2 service navigators. There's the map, yep.
What, 8 people for 180,000?
Six people for 180,000 person region, or district. So there's 2 service navigators they're gonna have per district. Currently, we have 1 service navigator for every 2 counties on average. So,
One for every 2 counties versus 2 per 16?
So if we have, hi Derek,
Are you guys
another
almost
tour?
done? You're the last department, so you're gonna need a bit, or you wanna just skip your department?
They can do it, I don't have to be
Oh,
in
just
there.
have your own.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, they
alright,
can do
just
it, yep,
Wanna make sure,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
So there'll be 7 districts, so be 14 service navigators instead of 50. I mean, just if you're going by averages, and some regions have more than others, the way things are set up right now, but, so, concerned with that. As far as our employees, this is where the state has no transition plan, so we need employees to stay till July 1st. But those employees also need to know, I mean, nobody's gonna blame them if they can look for another job.
right,
And so it's what do we do? So we do have a payout plan based on, we have some different options of paying them extra per hour or giving them a lump sum if they stay till, through the end of March, you get this amount, and April you get this amount, and May you get this amount. And just trying to incentivize people to stay on longer so that we can continue operating. Nobody's been guaranteed jobs in the new districts, so it's,
That's scary.
it is, so we gotta finish it out, but we gotta have somebody to finish it.
Yeah.
So, and if they get a job, I don't blame them for going. But, then as far as our mental health advocates and paying for them, like ours is Ruth Melby. And the code states that the mental health advocate shall be reimbursed by the region or district. But there's no clarity for payroll transition, so.
I thought ours was Anna Miller.
No, we're employer of record for Anna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The advocate is separate.
Mental health
Okay.
advocate is, yep, that's
Okay.
different. Auditor will probably be responsible for tracking the bills since the region will be gone. As far as that's concerned in the transition, the county auditors,
Tracking what bills?
those, mental health advocate payroll transitions. That's,
So they're still gonna be paid for by the county?
And that was,
They're gonna be an
that was
employee
another-
of the state, but paid by the county?
well, somebody's got to keep track of all that, and with the region dissolved, there'll be nobody to keep track of that, so that's gonna probably fall back on the county auditors for a time.
So
That's what
does
should
that
be on
mean
the
we have
state
to
auditor's
budget for them
office.
then?
Yeah.
So it's recommended, that's what I was getting to. Melissa is recommending, because she doesn't have any answers either, but she's recommending that we budget a quarter salary's worth of the advocate. And that currently the cost is around $80,000, which includes insurance and stuff.
I would say we would probably wanna budget a whole year for that. I mean, we could do an amendment if we had to, but that was also
Where would
one
that
of,
come out of?
Well, we have them in the budget, well,
probably.
we have Anna in the budget,
We
right?
do have Anna on the budget.
But. Yeah,
That was one of the things that was asked of whether the state would reimburse for that, and there was not an answer given.
We don't have any
That was one
answers.
of the code sections that
She
Kelly
said
Garcia needed to
We'll
look at.
find out more answers on the 20th
Okay.
with that Zoom call.
okay.
So if we have questions, which all of us do,
Mhm.
hopefully we'll get more answers on the 20th.
It just doesn't make any sense to me if it's run by the state, they should be a state employee, not a county employee.
I know,
But by the code, we have to.
right.
Yeah, that's where it gets funny.
That's
Yeah.
where
That's where it
they
gets funny.
contradict and they don't mesh well together,
Yeah.
but
Sounds like
she-
a mess to me.
she said it's on her radar, but there was no, there was no
Well,
firm answer to
And
that.
that's what we were having discussion, because we share, Ruth Melby is actually employed by Winnebago County as a mental health advocate. We have a sharing agreement, and so does Worth County with them. So our money would, and that's what we were discussing, how that would transition. Would the state reimburse each of the 3 counties for their portion, or would we just pay Winnebago County and the state deals with Winnebago County, and how that all looks. Nobody knows, but that's what hopefully we get answers to on the 20th.
Okay.
I would,
That's probably enough of that, and then.
Until it's not.
yeah,
Okay, and just as a couple notes for the board that I wanted to bring up, department head meetings each month. I know especially for Amber and Josh and I, being we have employment usually on Thursdays, it's difficult to get here, but could we do a rotating attendance of that, say each of us takes 2 department head meetings a year to try and attend, and we pick a month that you wanna go to it, and you can plan as far ahead as you want with that. Would that be reasonable, or, cause I know they appreciate when a member of the board is
I
there.
thought they were gonna change it.
It's the second Thursday of the
It's
month
still on
now.
Thursday.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
second Thursday.
yeah. I mean, it makes
Oh,
no
yeah.
difference
I just
to
never
me as
can
far
the
as what
first-
Thursday it's on.
Yeah, I just never can attend on the first Thursday of the
Oh,
month.
that was your, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, I can't.
I'm
But-
usually an hour or more away on Thursdays working somewhere. That's how my schedule usually is each week, but if I know well enough in advance, I can plan for that.
Is there a reason why we don't just have like a department head meeting like with the board, or, I mean,
Well, because it's not recorded. The department heads wanna meet, not recorded, and be able to talk.
Correct. So
okay.
usually just one person from the board or 2 people from the board can.
yeah, there were times when Roger and I were both there, but I think that was the only times we ever had 2 in the last.
I think maybe Roger and I were there at one time too, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I wasn't at all of them.
But either way, I think probably, I know they've expressed the desire to maybe make that more of a priority to try and be there. I think most months, none of us are there, so it's, if we could just have Carter takes February and September, whatever, and just, and then Josh takes March and October, however you wanna structure that, but just throwing it out there.
Yeah, I was there in January, no big deal, I take 4 months as long as they're in the winter, you know.
Sure,
type of
yep,
thing, but-
yep,
Yeah,
yep.
So, yeah, no big deal. So do you feel the department heads want somebody, I know that's what you said, Carter, they like somebody to be there, or, so do they feel threatened if there's more than one there, or what's going on?
No, I
Or
don't
the
think
problem
so.
is more so that we have nobody there?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
that's been the problem, is
Okay. Yep.
spotty attendance.
but if 3 of us are there though,
Well, that's what I'm
is that
saying,
one
just
of
plan
those
it out
things that
that,
has to be on the
It
agenda?
is on the agenda.
Is it on the
Yes,
agenda?
it is,
Okay.
yeah.
We did change that last year, we started
Okay.
putting them all on the agenda
Yeah.
for
Okay.
the board, so
Yeah.
when that's coming
Excited.
up, you will.
But still,
Attention and-
if February is not my month, then I won't go, you know, like, just,
I'll go in February.
I'm just throwing out February, cause we're in
I
February,
understand.
but,
Yeah, I mean,
Or is it something where we just wanna, all of us make an effort to be there quarterly, or how would you guys like to be present in those meetings?
I don't know, I will try to come to as many as I can. My schedule kinda does change sometimes, so if there's something that I can schedule that's important, you know, for my outside life, I'm gonna do that, but for the most part, I'm gonna have it on my calendar as that second Thursday, I mean, I will definitely try and be here, cause I
Okay.
appreciate moving it from the first.
Sure,
I would never be able to come,
yep,
you know, and I should be able to, cause it's right away in the morning, right?
9 o'clock.
9?
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah,
yep,
cause I would have, I mean, typically, Thursdays are certain appointments that I have, and, you know, those usually start at 10,
sure, so
so,
that'd work perfect, yeah.
yeah.
Well, and we can leave it as it is too, I mean, if you can go as you're able, I'm just throwing this out there as a reminder that, good to have somebody go.
Basically, you're saying it'll show up on next week's agenda, because it's second Thursday as well.
Right.
well, and if nothing else, yeah, maybe we
Sometimes you gotta
just,
whack me over the head.
Yeah.
You just forget,
Well,
we have so
maybe-
many other things.
at least if we can talk about it, that
Who's-
board meeting before of
Yeah.
Yeah.
who's gonna go, or can we
Yeah.
get one or
Yeah.
two
Yep.
or three, then
Mhm.
just try to get it, so we're not always having zero attendance would be good.
Yep, so just wanted to bring that up. Similarly, I had since we're all in the Republican Party here, I had the Central Committee reach out to me and they would like an update from a county update each month or every other month, and wondering if we can rotate coming to those meetings once, it'd be once or twice a year, for each of us. Just throwing that out there, he wanted me to bring that up during the board discussion as well.
We do have to be careful,
Yeah.
what we say and what we do, that was covered pretty heavily at our meetings. It's not meant to be a deliberation, it's meant for us to be able to say, here's what's going on in the county, and that's it.
Yeah,
Correct,
and you have to be careful.
It's not supposed to be a meeting, like,
Right.
where the public just kind of.
He doesn't want us all to go, he wants one of us to go.
No, I think we just even have to be careful in general.
And you have to be careful that once you do it, you have to do it for everybody regardless. I mean, cause otherwise you're gonna look like you're giving preferential treatment to one person or one party or one group.
Yeah.
So you have to be really careful with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I think the party aspect of it probably is a conversation, not a conversation for the boardroom to some degree, I mean.
okay,
We can.
I
and
told
I'm
him
not-
I'd
I'm not
bring it
saying
up.
for-
Well, but he's asking because we represent the county.
Right.
and-
Right.
And they'd like an update, so I understand that.
But I mean, as far as like setting a schedule or a rotation or whatever, I don't.
I'm not saying we have to schedule rotation, I'm saying Kendall Powell's reached out to me and.
Yeah, they'd
and
like,
Yeah,
they would just like updates, trying to get some more things to discuss throughout the year, especially an off year, and just throwing it out there.
yeah.
okay.
Okay, and then, reminder Farm Bureau meeting tonight. I do have, and I forgot it was even on my calendar, I do have a conflict tonight with Farm Bureau meeting. So I don't know if I'm gonna attend or not. I was hoping to, but, anyway, yeah, how many of you are going?
I am going, I'm gonna go to
Two,
the
Josh, you're not
advisory
going?
meeting
I
first.
cannot.
Depending on EMS and some of that, I'm not sure.
Okay,
I did RSVP for 4 of you, so.
yeah, I know you did,
Okay.
so I'll see what I can do there, but,
6 o'clock means show up at 6 o'clock, is that correct?
Yeah.
yeah. And then also, we still need a Board of Adjustment member, as far as I know, there's still a vacancy on the Board of Adjustment, so.
That was the one where you're hoping for somebody out of the Titanca area.
No, that was the eminent domain
That was
commission.
compensation.
Board of Adjustment can be anybody.
Well, and since you say eminent domain, how current do we have to keep that, because Dwayne Haviger did pass away and he was on there.
Yeah, then we need to get somebody
Oh.
to that.
Yeah.
He was on there, and he just recently, of
Yeah.
course, passed away,
Yeah, it
so.
was his funeral, yeah.
Yeah, that
And
would,
he was on there, I think Bert Farmer,
that would be someone we would need to
yeah.
fill a vacancy.
Okay. Okay, otherwise, that's all I have. And we do have budget workshops and budget discussions on the agenda. What time is it? It's noon, so do we wanna just come back at 1 o'clock and have any discussion, any particular departments that you all would like to review, or?
Not really, I just think that we need to go back and just, do an overview of the departments. I know there's still that conversation with the insurance,
Yep.
but that I understand is not gonna change that number that we're putting in the budget for that, so.
Correct.
I think just we need to, for the sake of time, just go through everything and make sure that nobody has any questions on certain departments or changes, or
Yep.
maybe we discussed something, we just wanna make sure that it got changed or whatever.
Yep.
I think we do need to go just,
Oh, definitely, well, and we
Give our
didn't get
blanket, hey,
through
we're
everything
pretty
last
good.
week by any means, I just didn't know if, yeah, we
I
got
don't
specific.
remember how far we got last week, it wasn't far, but.
it wasn't
Okay.
far,
Yep.
I don't think.
So let's come back at 1 and we'll discuss budget things.
Sounds good.
Alright,
Plan.